people are probably already asking, what is the Forever Agent? And we will get into it. And this is going to be a bit of an anthology. Each one of these points could be a 2-hour podcast in and of itself. We decided to come up with a podcast exclusively for the Forever Agent concept. I want to dive into this. Welcome back to the Forever Agent podcast. Today we're going over arguably one of the most important proclamations, which is proclamation number 10, turning your listing presentation into a Forever Agent customized home marketing proposal. So today, my guest, Alan Dalton, who's the creator of the home marketing system. He's been talking about this for decades, getting standing ovations all over the globe for your home marketing system. I'm glad I could help add to some of that here for the podcast. But just to go back to what these proclamations really are and how we arrived at them. We're disputing what traditional agents do, a disputation, which is listing presentations. We've all heard that. We're disputing that today. And we're exemplifying what a Forever Agent does, which is not a listing presentation. It's a customized home marketing proposal. So we're no longer using listing presentations. And, Alan, you've created the marketing systems for 6 iconic brands from Century 21, Better Homes and Gardens, Coldwell Banker, NRT, ERA, now Berkshire Hathaway Home Services. You name it, Alan's done it. Talk to us a little bit about why this is number 10, because we have 34 of them, but this is in the top 10, and the difference between a listing presentation and a marketing proposal before we dive into what we've created.
Well, Andrew, first of all, it's great to be with you. It's great to collaborate with you on this. And one of the reasons I'm so excited to collaborate with you because of your immense success and credibility. I know a few weeks ago you were out in Omaha, Nebraska.
Yes, sir.
At Explosion, one of the premier brainstorming events in this industry each year, hosted and facilitated by Vince Lacey. And Vince told me afterwards that of all of the speakers, when they surveyed the audience and they asked the attendees after the conference to identify the number one benefit that they derive from being there, you came up 98% of the time. So that's unprecedented. Think about that. Multiple speakers, keynote speakers, and yet of everybody there, 98% of the people took the most benefit from what you presented on this concept. So I'm delighted that we're going to be collaborating on this. And I'll just put a little perspective of why this has been a passion of mine. Many years ago, I moved from Boston to New Jersey. I didn't know a soul there. I didn't know a street. I didn't know a town. Yet I became, for a company that had 2 offices, which we built to 60 offices, I told the founder and the chairman of the company, Joe Murphy, I said, Joe, if I'm moving my family from Boston to New Jersey, I only want to be compensated on 2 things, bringing listings into the company and recruiting. And over 20 years, Andrew, I was on 2 or 3 listing calls a day, and yet I couldn't sell myself. I couldn't sell my success. I had never sold a home in New Jersey. I was from real estate in Boston. And so I couldn't go out and make a listing presentation because a listing presentation has something to do with me. A listing presentation is performative. A marketing proposal is collaborative. A listing presentation is about the past. A marketing presentation is about the future. So I was all in terms of the difference between listing presentations and marketing proposals. But unfortunately, because most of the industry takes its guidance from outside coaches, these coaches can't insert themselves into the resources and the brands and the credibilities and the market share and the marketing programs of the company that the agent works for. So all they're left with is still the outdated, anachronistic listing presentations based on calcified cliches that homeowners have developed antibodies over.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And thanks for sharing that. I had no idea that my talk was highly rated. And probably one of the reasons it was is because I got to collaborate with you so much. So this was born, again, out of these disputations, and we're trying to exemplify what we want the Forever Agents to do. And Alan and I had this beautiful synergy where I said, Alan, show me what you did on, you did 2 to 3 a day. You listed President Nixon's house. You took down 10,000 condos in one presentation, competing against, New York City ad men, and you kicked their butts, which is a fantastic story for another time.
Well, Andrew, you're 35. How much business are you going to do this year?
We'll close over $200 million worth of real estate. But what gets me excited in talking to people like you and the rest of the Forever Agent Network is that's possible for anybody. If you can lean in, start doing things a little bit differently, and take these proclamations for what they are, disputation, and exemplify this. And we want to be over here, particularly on this most important topic, to me at least, because we know in this business, you have to list to last. Listings are the name of the game.
And by the way, much of this is just common sense. Because, one of the oldest principles of selling is find out what people want and give it to them.
Amen.
Is there a homeowner in North America that wants to hear a listing presentation? The answer is no. No home seller has ever called a real estate office or agent to say, could you please come over and make a listing presentation and make sure you tell us what time, because we're going to wake the kids up so they can hear it. No, they prefer marketing proposals. That's why after some listing presentations, home sellers have actually said, can you come back, Andrew, and make with a proposal? People want proposals. They want marketing presentations, not listing presentations. But if somebody is not familiar with all of your points of difference, your resources, your marketing programs, you're going to be left with a listing presentation.
So Alan and I have combined a lot of what I did to have success in my first 12 years to what he's been doing for decades at an extremely high level. And that's what we came up with. And that's what we're going deep on today. So I'm ready to dive into this.
Let's get started.
If you are. So we came up with the 4 Ps of a Forever Agent customized home marketing proposal. Now, we didn't steal that from the 4 Ps of marketing. It just happens to be a nice congruence there. And the 4 Ps of marketing, for those who don't know, this is like the Bible of all marketing. It's still in every single marketing textbook. Anyone who's well-versed and nuanced in marketing knows about the 4 Ps.
Amen.
Came out in 1957 from the Harvard Business School. And the 4 Ps are product, price, promotion, and placement. Every product or service, if they're marketed properly, goes through that paradigm of the 4 Ps. What's our product? How are we promoting it? What price are we going to have? And where's it going to be placed? What's the placement? In real estate, it goes so well. So that's the 4 Ps of marketing, but now we have the 4 Ps of a customized marketing proposal. It's actually Alan's home marketing system, but we're taking it to the next level for the Forever Agents with a modern day practitioner and an icon in the industry and a legend of the game. So the reason I wanted to get this out to the network is because earlier in my career, and I've told you this story, I was so infatuated with having the best listing presentation.
Right.
Because before I was, I had my mindset shifted on the fact that no one likes listing presentations, and the only people who talk about listing presentations are our industry from coaches who can't actually change the game up for us in our individual brands. I went on this mission to find the best one, and I ended up paying $25,000 to a coach. I won't tell you the whole story, and I'm proud of that investment, and I got a really great presentation out of it. But what we've came up with is so much better, so much simpler, so much easier to present because it's just logical and rational all the way through, and it's what the client actually wants.
Amen.
So here's the 4 Ps of the customized home marketing proposal: preparation, present and propose, pricing, and the post work that's involved and the follow-up and all that good stuff when you're actually servicing a listing.
Andrew, before you go any further, I want to make I think, a very important point, and I want to make it emphatically. You just spoke to our blessed audience by virtue of outlining the fact that there's going to be 4 of something, the 4 Ps. That's easy for them now to follow. That's why as we get into what we present to home sellers, I want the audience, our colleagues within the network, to be looking for the 3 this, the 2 of this, the 4 of this, because home sellers also need to have that framework to follow along.
Yeah, you got to have ways to anchor this stuff into your brain. So we already went over the 4 Ps of the customized marketing proposal, and there's going to be 4 Cs, and we're going to share a lot with you today. But guys, we're on this journey with you. We've recently been creating this over the last 3 months. We want to add to it. We want you to dispute some of the things we're saying. We want to make this as good as it possibly can for our network. And that's how everybody learns. We see it, we do it, and I've been practicing this out in the streets at kitchen tables for the last 2 months. We see it, we do it, then we teach it. So come on the journey with us. This is the way to list homes with a customized home marketing proposal. So preparations first, and this is something I kind of added to what Alan has been presenting, because we really have to be prepared for these appointments.
By the way, I'm happy you're starting off with the preparation, because let me confess, for 20 years, I was just involved in the presentation and the pricing, because I was going with my colleagues. I made the presentations. We had 60 offices. We owned 32. I had 1,200 sales executives. I basically made the presentations for everybody when I was available. I never charged anybody a fee because I was the president and co-owner of the company, but I did none of the preparation and I did none of the post work. So when I've shared my background, it's always parenthetically just on the presentation and the pricing. So I'm thrilled that you are going to extend this more comprehensively with the preparation.
Well, you have to prepare. It's actually so important. It's another one of our Forever Agent proclamations, because Forever Agents are proficient in preparation. Because if you don't get this right, you're not going to set this thing off on the right foot. You're not going to be armed with what you need to be confident and in control of this process. So when we think about preparation, the first thing we want to do is prepare the home seller. What does that mean? You have to set some basic expectations before you show up for your appointment. And that could be as simple as this. Hey, Mr. Allen, I'm looking forward to coming over Thursday at 5. What types of things do you want to go over in order to make the best use of your time? Okay, that's confident, that's collaborative, that's consultative, and it's in control because I'm asking questions. We're going to cover the 4 C's later, but there they are. And they're going to say simple things like, hey, Andrew, we're just thinking about getting the home ready for sale. We want some tips and tricks, whatever homeowners say, because they don't understand our process and our business fully. And then you just simply embed, hey, after selling over $1 billion of real estate or whatever your stats are, typically home sellers want to know, hey, what's my home worth? What do you charge and what do you do to get it sold? I want to make sure we cover those things, because that's what every savvy home seller needs to know before they can make a powerful decision moving forward. Boom. Now that's just a basic preparing the home seller. Hey, we're going to consult with you. We're going to give you some guidance, and this is going to be well worth your time. Boom. Then what the agent does, what a Forever Agent does, who's proficient in preparation, is we have to prepare quantitatively. What does that mean? You need to know everything about this subject property. Okay? When did they buy it? What did they buy it for? What type of financing do they have? Did they get any closing costs? How are they holding title? Tenants in common, tenants by entirety. What's the square footage? Print out the tax record. Print out the lien on the property with all the mortgage information. These are things that are available to all of us in the public domain, and agents don't use it. And even if you don't need it, and by the way, a lot of this stuff you don't need to list homes. I was listing a lot before I learned this. It's a better way to do it, and your clients deserve it. And that's preparing quantitatively. Like, you have to look at this like a doctor. I want to see the culture. I want to see the MRI. I want to see the CAT scan, not to make me feel good, although it does make me feel more confident, but to advise my home sellers better should something arise where I have the data to back it.
Yes.
But when I was explaining to you what I did,
Right.
you told me I missed a key point, and this changed as a paradigm shift for me. You said, Andrew, that's great. You're preparing quantitatively. That's phenomenal, but you're missing the qualitative preparation. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Well, thank you. And even before that, there's another little step here, and that is this: most agents refer to some of the preparation as a pre-listing packet.
Sure.
I think that should be changed to a pre-marketing packet, because it sets a different tone. You could discuss that in that terms with the homeowner, because homeowners are much more interested in what you're going to do to market their home than how you're going to list their home. But let's get to the qualitative. So what I would do over 20 years and several hundreds and thousands or whatever of marketing presentations, I would always prepare qualitatively. And I've made a few notes of some of my process. Number one, I would never go to meet somebody with one of my agents without first telling myself, I am going to love these people. Now, how often have you told yourself, I really don't want to go to this function. I don't want to go to this party. I don't like these people. And when you tell your brain that, you manifest those vibes. People pick that up. By telling yourself, by telling myself, I'm going to love these people. This is how we make money. This is how I provide for my family. I want to help these people. I care about these people. They're honoring us by giving us this opportunity. There's 8,000 other agents in the MLS, and they're meeting with us. I love these people because the number one question every home seller asked him or herself during any engagement with a salesperson or marketing person is this: do I like the salesperson? And they decide that in moments.
Right.
And if they don't like the salesperson, everything is downhill. So it's almost like a subconscious principle of reciprocity.
Yes.
By virtue of me telling myself and showing that I like them, I'm always going to be liked. So that's the first thing I prepared for qualitatively. Now, why was that important? Because some of my agents, and I know sometimes in the Northeast, we can be a little bit abrupt and perhaps too straightforward. But I used to hear a lot of my wonderful colleagues on the way to the appointment say, Alan, boy, because oftentimes they had been there, they needed me to go in and close it. Oh, Alan, this homeowner, one of the people, the husband's a real jerk.
Right.
Or she's a real this, and so forth and so on. But I knew why, because they were saying things like comps. They were doing things that offended people, and so it became self-fulfilling. And then after we secured the marketable listing, we'd be driving back to the office, and my agents would say like this, Alan, no, this was after them saying, Alan, can you come to the bar mitzvah? Can you come to the wedding? We're having a barbecue on Saturday. That happened every single time. And my agents used to say on the way back from the appointment, Alan, they fooled you. They fooled you. He's really not that nice. That's not who they really are, because I brought out a different person. So that's critical to start off by telling yourself. The second qualitative dimension is this. I always knew before I arrived what the population of the town is. For example, Andrew, we're here in Bel Air, Maryland. Do you know what the population of your town is?
I do now after talking to you so much. It's 12,602.
No, actually it's 10,102. Okay, but just so you know. But most people wouldn't even know. And so I would always say this to every single homeowner at some time. Folks, my job is to let the world know why we have 10,102 happy campers living here in Bel Air. And every single homeowner would say this, oh, is that our population? Because that just shows that neither they or their town are interchangeable widgets. I'm taking a forensic approach to everything I do because I'm a professional. That would lead me to the third qualitative thing I would always say. And by the way, because Bel Air, as exquisite as it is, as vibrant as it is, as classic as it is, as magnificent as the downtown is, we've got to understand something. Bel Air is one of Greater Baltimore's best kept secrets. Now that's fine when you're living here, but we've got to change that when we're marketing your home, okay? That people really love to hear that, okay? Because they want more attention now that they're moving their home. And the next one, I would always be prepared to point out distances. I would say, by the way, Andrew, and I've seen your home, so this would be very appropriate for you. Your home is wonderfully sequestered. You've got all the symbols of tranquility. It's fantastic, your home, but you're also very convenient. I love how convenient you are to both Route 24 and Route 1. In fact, how close do you think you are to Route 1?
Probably about 5 miles.
No, you're actually 4.2 miles. I measured it last night. So these are the things, every single homeowner, I wanted to start off letting them know that I've already zeroed in on what's their particulars. That's being prepared qualitatively.
So we're calling quantitative preparation and qualitative preparation. This is called real estate reconnaissance.
Amen.
So if you're going to
Exactly.
be proficient in this stuff, get your quantitative stuff down. It's all public domain. But then qualitatively, this was a game changer for me. And I go on typically probably 4 listing presentations, AKA marketing proposals. I haven't brainwashed myself yet. I go on 4 marketing proposals a week. And now every time I say, I'm going to love these people. That is powerful. That is extremely powerful. And I also tell myself, I'm going to love this property.
Exactly.
Because you always love the property because if it's a beautiful property, and many of them are, you're going to get that commensurate fee and provide for your family. And even if the property's not that nice, Alan, this is an Alan joke, giving it back to him. Even if the property's not that nice, just love the fact you don't have to live there. Hey, okay.
Hey, Andrew, the other thing is that you can never praise a person's home enough, and it has nothing to do with the price, because for most people, that's the only time their home has been clean in 5 years. Okay, so you can't overpraise it. But the other thing in terms of qualitative preparation, during the marketing proposal, the most important question you can ask any home seller is this. I'm going to talk directly to the audience. Folks, may I take a few minutes and share with you the way in which I'd like to describe your home to the marketplace? There's no question that captures their imagination to that degree. But that requires preparation. Now, I drove by one of the homes in your neighborhood, and you asked me to describe it. And in 5 minutes, I texted you my description, and it blew you away.
It blew the home seller away, too.
Because you were going after that home seller. so the point is this, is that prepare yourself for that. Now that you can have interior pictures and homes that have been on the market before, take 20 minutes and put together 5 or 6 descriptions. I like the way your principal rooms, I like how your home is second to none in terms of this. You don't have a backyard, you've got an arboretum back here. But put together 3 or 4 sentences that shows that you're so. The other thing I used to do is this, Andrew. I used to develop a pre-marketing letter that I would send out to all of my 32 offices that we owned. Dear colleagues, we're in the process of potentially representing a homeowner in Bel Air that lives on a cul-de-sac that has that very coveted 5th extra bedroom, and it's on a special elevated lot. I can't give you the address right now, but please start preparing interest amongst your buyers, okay, because hopefully we'll be putting this home on the market this weekend. Then I would show the homeowners, here's what I've already been doing without divulging your address, just in case you were concerned about time, okay? Because I knew that every other agent, they'd only be talking about what they were going to do. I already had started.
It's so beautiful. So I want to recap that for the audience, because this preparation piece is really big. And then we're going to get into the meat of this stuff, which is this incredible presentation and some timeline things and all the social media and the good stuff. But if you miss this, you're going to you could miss something really important. So quantitative, you got that. Now to bullet point this qualitative stuff, I'm going to love these people and this property. You're going to know the population of the town, the city, the municipality, the neighborhood, whatever, the building. 3, have a best kept secret and prepare for it. 4, know the distance to some major landmarks.
Restaurants, symphonies.
Restaurants, I-95.
Exactly, theme parks, whatever.
This stuff it seems simple. No one does it.
Exactly.
But you know who does? Forever agents. Now,
hey, Forever Agents.
Boom. Notice the t-shirt. If you're listening to this only online, Alan's got his Forever Agent Pledger t-shirt on because he is the pledge master, the godfather of all things pledge. And if you haven't taken the pledge, I'm embarrassed I don't have my sticker. It's the first podcast I don't have my sticker on. I might have to peel that off your phone and put it on my shirt at some point. Now, there's 2 other dynamics to this. Okay, those are the 4 key qualitative things. Here's 2 things that you added that I hadn't actually heard before. So see, that's what I'm saying. This always gets better. We want you guys to add to this too. Can I share with you how I describe this home?
I would like to describe this home, yeah.
That's another thing that no one's done, because that takes serious confidence and it shows your preparation. And then boom, a pre-marketing letter that you're already writing to your colleagues.
It's almost like when a stock goes public, it's like friends and family.
Right.
Okay, and this is different than the pre-MLS and where you need to
coming soon.
A waiver of cooperation from the MLS or whatever. This is completely appropriate in all contexts.
And here's the thing, guys. As a modern day practitioner, we all know it's great to be armed with that. Doesn't mean you have to pull it out if you're not feeling it, but you're going to be armed with these things. These are arrows in your quiver once you are at the kitchen table that you can use. And it may help you secure, it might be the difference between making $50K and not. So it's so simple to prepare. Now, let's get into the actual, now we're showing up. Okay, we prepared this home seller for what we're going to go over. We're going to go to the house, and you taught me a few key things here. Let's start off with, okay, we're pulling up to the house. I'm going to go meet a homeowner. What's the first thing I do?
Well, first of all, the first thing you don't do is get right out of your automobile and go right to the door, because that shows you're indifferent to the home. It's not captivating. It's not compelling. See, and the reason why buyers will linger a little bit longer is because they're actually interested in the property.
Right.
We have agents that are tipping their hand that they're more interested in getting the listing. And so I suggest stand out in front of that home, have a yellow pad of paper. But you should do this anyway. So this isn't just to impress the homeowners because they're looking out the window. You should be psyching yourself to be identifying amenities and nuances that will be part of your text and images.
Yeah. Okay, so that's step one. Never walk straight to the door. Have
Exactly.
your yellow pad out. Take notes. Smile and nod.
Because imagine if you're outside the home like this.
Shaking your head no.
It'll be all over.
disgusted.
The opposite is true. When they see that you are affirming their property, that you are approving of their property, they love you.
And make no mistake, they're always watching you.
Exactly.
This is a big deal for them.
Yeah.
They've had a conversation. Honey, they're going to,
Yeah.
Andrew's coming at 5. Don't sign anything.
Yeah.
They have the house clean for the first time in
Yeah.
5 years, potentially.
And obviously, if you ever got there and somebody, you saw another agent do that in another company, you then say to the homeowner, why was that agent tipping off the neighborhood that you're moving? But anyway.
So you always say, you always have to be able to spin it in some way or the other. So, but that's a great first step.
But you should do that for the honorable reasons of really getting prepared to be the storyteller of the entire lifestyle, the street, the neighborhoods, the painting, the architecture, the landscaping. Ooh, it's beautiful. Go ahead.
Yeah. See, this is why we're going so deep on this, because each little thing can have major consequences.
Amen.
Now, when you get to the door, when I was kind of showing Alan what I would do, and you liked most of it, but then we kiboshed a lot of it, and we blended this together with this beautiful synergy of what we've created. I said, Alan asked me, what was your first line when you got to the door? And I said, well, typically I just ask, hey, can we take a tour of the property? You want to show me around? One of those things that maybe you also say, you're just trying to break the ice, not be weird, show me around. That violates proclamation number 14, which is, forever agents don't use lazy listing language. And what I just described is pretty lazy. Hey, show me around.
Oh, why don't you show me the properties if I was the buyer? Lazy listing language.
Tell them what we all should say verbatim, because don't deviate from this.
What I said to thousands of homeowners for many years and would still say today is this. Folks, why don't we take a pre-marketing evaluation tour of your property together, so together we can start determining which of your amenities will provide us with the greatest competitive advantage. See, that's a pro at work.
Just say it one more time because people are going to want to hear it.
Folks, why don't we take a pre-marketing evaluation tour of your property together, so together we can begin to determine which of your amenities will provide us with the greatest competitive marketing advantage.
That right there was critical for me. That was a light bulb went off in my head, because now I'm not trying to guess what I'm going to say. Do you want to show me around? Can you give me a tour? No.
You're on a mission.
And the other thing you told me too is you always say, hey, thanks for allowing me to come over this afternoon. Thanks for allowing me.
Yeah.
Because you're giving them a little control. You're not
Exactly.
invited in. They're allowing you into their home.
And that's what I say beginning the presentation when we get to it. But no, that's exactly right.
Well, that allows key. So before we dive into the actual presentation
Yeah.
here, and we're going to get there, and you're going over that tour, when you're getting the homeowners to show you around,
Yeah.
this is key. This is bond and rapport 101. These are all the things you have to nail before you start to present and propose, so you can make sure we're all on the same page. You have some just golden lines here. So what every homeowner does, Alan, is they say, you're walking around, hey, here's what we did in the kitchen. We updated this island. We extended it. We changed the cabinets.
Well, I believe essentially, I may not be right, but I'm convinced that essentially every single homeowner points out improvements.
Yes.
And in 2022, more than in 1989 for this reason, because of pricing history. Because homeowners who bought a home for $700,000 a year ago that now want $850,000, even though appreciation doesn't basically validate that delusion, what they're desperately trying to do is they're trying to place a greater importance on their improvements.
Right.
And so if you understand that, you've got to be ready to what to say. So if you're walking through the home, let's say you're outdoors and the homeowner says, well, Alan, we used to have concrete around the pool and we used to have sliding glass doors, but we upgraded to French doors and blue slate, then I would always say, wow, that's really going to give us a marketing advantage. That's the tour here. That's really going to give us a marketing advantage. Let me ask you this. Whose idea was that? And one of the partners would always say, oh, that was my idea. Now, what I would always make sure I would do is, let's say it was Susan and Bob. I wouldn't say, oh, Susan, that's a great idea. I would say, Bob, Susan had a great idea here, because now I'm getting a twofer. I'm honoring Susan, but I'm engaging Bob, and Susan gets to hear her partner have to rejoice in my compliment. And then I'm going to say, after whose idea was that, Susan, I don't know if you did this for resale purposes or just for the aesthetic enhancements of your lifestyle, but again, that's really going to give us a marketing advantage. Now, there might even be one person listening here or watching that may be thinking, oh, that could come back to hurt us on pricing expectations. That has nothing to do with how a pro ends up handling the price. This is just honoring people, making them feel great as they should, in honoring their home and honoring their improvements.
So that's a beautiful way to start this process off right. You're going on this pre-marketing evaluation tour together to determine what amenities are going to give you the best marketing advantage. And then you're complimenting the homeowner, you're complimenting the spouses, you're getting both people involved. And that happens throughout. You're going to be using those types of lines throughout this tour. Wow, whose idea was that? Brilliant. So here's a pro tip from someone who's just doing it every day. I'm going to do it actually after this. You always put down all your real estate reconnaissance, the presentation we're going to show you. You put it down during that tour where you want to come back to. Most listing agents know that. But you also, and you taught me this, Alan, you want to put it somewhere where you're sitting opposite your prospective home sellers, where you can see both of them, but they can't see each other. So they're not signaling to each other what they like, what they don't like. You want to be in total control of this. Now, after you go through that pre-marketing evaluation tour, now we're sitting at the kitchen table. You're across from them. Before we dive into the actual presentation, because we're going to go right through your 7-level step up, and I want you to just hammer that home, because this is all your great stuff. And I've enhanced some of them, and I'll jump in with social media and video and that sort of thing. This is a critical point to understand the 4 C's. Now, Alan, tell us what the 4 C's are. We went over the 4 P's. The 4 C's, these 4 C-letter words, have to remain fluid throughout the entire rest of this presentation.
Before I get there, I want to go back to the tool for one last point.
Sure.
Oftentimes, if you're on volume appointments, you're going to have home sellers take you to the property, and they're going to point out materials and amenities that they're very prideful of that you're not familiar with.
Sure.
Okay, we bought this. This was imported from Italy. We get this from quarries in South America. Instead of me making believe that I knew exactly what it was, so I couldn't elaborate, I would always go like this. Oh, that's the real McCoy. And for some reason, okay.
I love it.
That we were able to move on, okay? And the other thing is that don't tell people that's beautiful. See, the industry only has 6 words to compliment all homes. Your home is beautiful, lovely, charming, gracious, spacious, and elegant. You've got to find more descriptive. But now let's get back to your question. When you're at that kitchen table, you've got to basically, the way you start the presentation has everything to do with the way you're going to end it.
Right. So
I'm going to first tell you what not to do. What you shouldn't do is that you shouldn't start by not opening open-ended questions. See, a lot of realtors over the years, because we have a scripting fetish in this industry,
yes,
they've been trained to say things like this. Well, I want to help you get the best price in the shortest period of time with the least inconvenience. Even though that may be congruent with home sellers' desires, it's flawed because you're telling, you're not asking.
Right.
Or I'd like to tell you a little bit about myself, my company, what we'll do. That's flawed because it's telling. Instead, you always want to make sure you begin by asking. And here's the question that I would always ask. Folks, tonight I brought some pricing strategies as well as some marketing strategies. Would you like to begin with the pricing or the marketing? Now, what that accomplishes is this, Andrew. It ensures that no one will ever again say to anybody on this podcast, well, can we just get to the price? Or, well, you don't have to sell me on yourself. We know you're a great agent. Those are flawed atmospherics, because when you cause an environment that leads to the homeowner having to interrupt you and manifesting rudeness, you're going downhill because you're embarrassing them in front of their partner because you're bringing out rudeness. Don't put them in that spot. Start with an open-ended question. When you start with that open-ended question, would you like to begin with the marketing strategies or the pricing strategies? It does 4 things. It's the 4 C's. Number 1, it shows that you're confident, because only a confident person is a critical thinking person and not robotically following scripts that coaches are telling agents to use. That's number. You're confident. Number, because either way, you're a pro. You don't have to rig the order, okay? Number 2, it shows that you're consultative, because only a consultant will ask a question like that, because that's what consultants do. They ask questions. Number 3, it's collaborative, because a marketing proposal is collaborative, whereas a listing presentation is performative. And the 4th C is that it establishes control, but control in the healthy sense of the word, like a pilot being in control of the aircraft or a teacher being in control of the classroom, because sometimes the word control can take on pejorative interpretations, as in a control freak. No, this is different. You're in control because you're creating an atmosphere where the home sellers feel they're in control. So again, that is the way that I recommend forever agents consider beginning every marketing presentation. Folks, I brought some pricing strategies as well as some marketing strategies. Would you like to begin with either the pricing or the marketing?
Beautiful. And those 4 C's are so important: confident, collaborative, consultative, and in control. And when you think about control again, whoever's asking the questions are in control. Okay, whoever sets the frame wins the game. So you have to be asking these questions, and each step in the 7-level step up is those 4 things. You're confident, collaborative, consultative, and in control. So Alan gave you the best way to start off the conversation. So you're sitting down back at the kitchen as you're getting your stuff together. Hey folks, would you guys like to start off with some pricing strategies or some marketing strategies? What a beautiful thing. Let's table pricing. Let's just say they go to marketing first,
Okay.
and we'll come back to pricing.
Sure.
And by the way, in the Learn Center, you have the most beautiful 30-minute segment with Gino Blafari and Bob Watson going over your 3-level pricing strategy. And we will cover it, but I'm just so eager to get to this marketing 7-level step up. I'm going to hold this paper up for anyone watching, and this will be available to the whole global network. And it's essentially what Alan has been doing for decades at an extremely high level, combined with what I've been doing on a timeline. And this one piece of paper is the entire presentation guide. So, Alan, your first step in the 7-level step up is?
Well, first of all, even before that, a lot of the network agents, they don't need this, but the home sellers do.
Right.
See, the agents know what they're talking about, but sometimes the homeowners can't follow it.
Right.
Agents will go to training, and maybe after a week or two, the light bulb goes off. You've got 10 minutes. People do not make decisions when they're confused. You've got to engage people. So the way this 1-page proposal works is it basically shows it automatically down the bottom of the proposal. It shows, here's what all the other companies are doing. This is traditional marketing. But traditional marketing is no longer enough in today's market. That's why we have to upgrade the marketing. Now look at the words. This is a customized home marketing system. What does the word customize say to you, Andrew?
It means we can change it. It's malleable.
It means that you're an individual. You're not an interchangeable widget.
Right.
This isn't a Willy Wonka chocolate factory. Okay, this isn't an anti-lock brake system. This is a fluid, customizable system in terms of that. The other thing is that when you say you have a system, it's the best of both worlds, because you think that if a company or an agent's been in business for 10 or 20 years, they've figured out what they do to market homes.
Right.
They'd have a name, they'd have a system. No one wants an anti-lock brake plan. They want an anti-lock brake system, okay? So now let's get to the specifics. So the first step in the customized home marketing system is where you're going to ask the home sellers, you're going to point out to the home sellers, folks, all real estate marketing comes down to 3 words: range, reach, and influence. Let's stop there for a few seconds,
Yes.
a few minutes. If I were to ask, and I've asked this of many of my colleagues around the country, if you were on an airplane and a fellow passenger said to you, Andrew, how does real estate marketing work? Explain it to me. Not every realtor is prepared to answer that like a songbird.
Right.
But thankfully, they don't have to. You know why? No one's ever asked them that. But just because home sellers don't ask them that doesn't mean that an agent shouldn't be able to crystallize complexity and reduce everything in a simple way. You've got to keep it simple. Sometimes I'll be very elaborative because just to get people to be simple.
Right.
So you're going to simplify it. And when you say all marketing comes down to 3 words: range, reach, and influence, no agent would ever say that in their first week in the business on their own. They wouldn't have the experiential knowledge. But if somebody's a forever agent, they're a pro, they're amongst the best, like we'll be meeting up at Summit in Boston, by now they should be able to explain to people, because you've got to give a framework. So therefore, home sellers understand where every single thing you're going to propose fits into the bigger scheme, but it's got to be a skipple scene. Range, folks, is the internet, but every real estate company, brand, brokerage, and agent has access to the internet, as do all of us, okay? So you got that. But today, the internet is instrumental in terms of exposure for your property. The next is reach. Reach is something called IDX. It's an MLS online, digitally, if you will.
Right.
Now, you've added social media to that,
Right.
because I was doing this before social media. So now you can talk about that later. So that's reach, okay? But even if we didn't have range or reach, just by virtue of your home being on the MLS, you'd get people coming to the house. So the challenge isn't to get people to your home, rather, and your lifestyle. Our greatest challenge, Andrew, is not range and reach. Our greatest challenge is influence. What will determine the outcome of your home? And remember, because of our brand, most companies focus on selling more homes. Our complete focus is on marketing homes for more. It all comes down to influence. So we have a customized marketing proposal here that will maximize the influence, first with buyer agents and also with buyers. But the only way we can maximize the influence is by your participation. So the first step of our customized home marketing system is I want to ask the 2 of you, if you'd be kind enough, to take these 2 little forms here. It will only take you about 5 minutes. And please write down the 3 to 5 greatest reasons that you think will be able to influence buyers and buyer agents to want this home. So now we give people the form. They fill out the form. I take them back. I did this for 20 years. I never had a home seller said, oh, this is part of your training? Oh, this is slick. No, they're completely compelled and immersed in telling their story, okay? That's why they want to be home when buyers are there. And so then when I get the forms, I go like this. You know, folks, it's interesting. Neither one of you put down the number of bedrooms and baths. Now, that's on every ad, but you're right. You've got great instincts, because that's not why people are going to buy this lifestyle. I love how you put you can walk to Starbucks. I love how you mentioned the dog park. I love how you mentioned the neighbors. I love what you've done in terms of the library. I love what you've done with the home office, because now we have a hybrid environment. A lot of people, they're working from home. That's so smart that you put the office. Offices now are more. I love the fact that you put the outdoor kitchen around the pool. That's so important today. And we've got to make sure that this is captured in all the other websites out there, okay, because that's how we're going to influence. So it's range, reach, and influence. So that's the first step.
So that's the key first step here. Now we have to time out. That's called Home Seller Insights.
It's on the form.
It's on the form, Home Seller Insights. So this transition is really important. Assuming they pick marketing, if they go to pricing, we can talk about that and we will cover it. If they go to marketing, say, well, folks, all marketing boils down to 3 words: range, reach, and influence. You just heard Alan go over that. But the beautiful transition there is when you hammer home influence, you simply say, but first I need you to influence me.
Exactly.
This is the 4 C's in a nutshell. Confident, collaborative, obviously, consultative. We're working together, and you're in control because they're still engaged. You're asking them a question. Hey, what are the top 3 to 5 things that you love about this home that you think the next buyer would be so fortunate enough to be able to live here and own this lifestyle? That's unbelievably valuable. Okay, so Home Seller Insights.
And one other thing, Andrew, and you're also establishing a mutual vocabulary, because throughout the proposal, you're going to be saying another way that we're going to influence buyers. Another way that we're going to influence buyer agents, because now they understand you have a co-strategy.
Yeah, you're co-opting them into your lexicon.
Exactly.
It's now, we don't have time to go into all the psychology behind this,
Yeah.
but I can just tell you firsthand, this stuff works like it's like cutting warm butter with a hot knife. It just makes the process so much smoother.
Well, one time I was 37 for 37. The whole company used to have on the bulletin boards, they'd track it. But anyway.
Well, when I was giving my talk in Omaha, which thanks for the compliment, I guess was highly rated, I said, you don't have to do this to list homes, but if my life depended on it, this is the exact first step. And don't miss this, because it is the best way.
Andrew, my feeling is that when people get involved like this, I had the sense that if I told the homeowners, I have to leave right now, I can't be involved in the marketing, they would literally have tears in their eyes because of how they felt about this process.
People never remember what you do or say. They remember how you make them feel.
Amen. Exactly.
That's Maya Angelou.
And see, I've got to even stop saying amen because it may not be politically correct. So I'm going to stop saying amen, but go ahead.
You better cut that out.
Exactly.
So before we go into this next piece, because each one of these steps has a lead in and a perfect flow into the next phase of this, into the next level of the step up, I want to point out that Forever Agent Proclamation 26 is forever agents focus more on what makes a home and lifestyle different than on what makes them different. This is not a listing presentation anymore. Listing presentations are over.
Exactly.
This is a customized forever agent marketing.
That's proposal. One of the disputations.
That's what we were disputing. So tell them about the criticizing piece. This is a brilliant thing that I've never done, which I will never not do again. This has got to be part of it.
Well, see, this is all forensically and strategically choreographed over several hundred presentations from presidents to modest home sellers, okay? Modest homes, not modest home sellers. After you go through the process of giving them the opportunity to celebrate that which they cherish, their home, now is the perfect time to introduce the other side of the coin by saying this. Andrew, now that we've gone over all of the reasons why somebody would want to buy this magnificent home, and thank you for your insight and sharing it with me. That's going to be the cornerstone of the text, and we'll get to the images in a minute. Let me ask you this question. Andrew, Amy, is there anything about your property that you think a buyer or a buyer agent might try to criticize to bring the value down that we should strategize over tonight so we can preemptively inoculate ourselves from that criticism? Is there anything you can think of, anybody visiting your home or living in this home now for 15 years, that might be brought up as a negative that we should discuss?
And they'll say things like, well, we're a little close to the road. You know, our front yard could be bigger. You know, we don't have 3-zone HVAC, so it could get a little hot upstairs. I don't know if we're showing this. Any number of things. And then how do you rebut those items?
Well, I recommend that our forever agents, when they say something like that, to say this. You know, folks, by the way, just so you know, over the last 10 years, I've sold in excess of $300 million worth of real estate, and many homes were on much busier streets, and many homes didn't have full ventilation either. I know how to handle that. So we can talk about that later. That's not going to be an issue.
So before we move to the next step, this is the key. strategizing on things buyers might criticize that will try to diminish this value. Only a consultant would say something like that. Only someone confident would say something like that. You're still being collaborative and you're still in control asking questions.
And not only that, it also celebrates agency. Because if you don't let them know that there's another side of the transaction that ethically is adversarial, because the classic definition of agency is where the agent inclined to one. So presumably, if most buyers would like to pay less for the home, that buyer agent has an ethical responsibility to seek that outcome. So therefore, by articulating that to the home seller, it just makes it more pronounced that you are representing them. Thus, you're creating a bonding.
Beautiful. So that's home seller insights number one. You're getting the top 3 to 5 things that people love about their home, and you're also trying to strategize on what people might do to diminish the value. Now, hit us with the next step. That's step 1, check.
The next one we have is the photo marketing strategy. Don't just talk about pictures, okay? Folks, what we need to do is we need to get together and develop tonight a photo marketing strategy. Now, we can arrange the photography either based on the way I showed the property if I was here physically with buyers, or we can do it the way that people are more likely to search digitally and do it that way. And I'm going to recommend that. So I have a few forms again. What I'd like you to do is this. I'd like you to list, in both of your opinions, what would be the order of the first 5 pictures, because we have the liberty. Some people have monumentally impressive back properties and pool houses. We'll start with this. Some people want to start with the curb appeal, okay? But beyond that, I'd like you to list what you think from all of the years living here and people visiting here, what's been the greatest wow factors? What's been the response? Let's tap into that. So then they're involved in a photo marketing strategy.
So Alan's second step was the photo marketing strategy, and this is where I came in and said, Alan, we're changing this to immense digital influence.
I love it.
Because photos are super important. And one of the words I actually said in the last presentation when I was, immense digital influence is this: photo marketing strategy, compelling video content, and targeted distribution. It's a triangle. So we're adding photo marketing strategy. You know, that used to be enough, not anymore. We need compelling video content. We need a targeted distribution strategy. So that's all in step 2, and I'm going to riff on that for a little bit. But just so you know, this is what I've been saying. And for those who don't know, Alan was the former CEO of Realtor.com when it was the most powerful IDX website on the planet. So we should leverage that. So what I tell a home seller is, how important do you think it is that your home shows well online in the pictures? And they say, oh, it's unbelievably important. I said, you know, we're fortunate enough here at the brand where our senior executive was the former CEO of Realtor.com. We know a thing or two about the order of photos. So, and that's just a great way to just kind of massage this deal and tenderize the home seller and to say, oh my God, this is unbelievably important. Say, trust me, we're going to handle it. We're going to make sure these first 5 photos pop, because we do not gamble with our client's equity when it comes to how it showcases online. Because my job is not only to influence the buyers and the buyer's agents, it's to attract as many people as we possibly can, even before we're actually on the market, to this property.
I love that.
So you have
That's so much better, Andrew. It's so much more contemporaneous. And that's why we're doing this collaboration.
Well, yeah.
Exactly.
And so you have the photo marketing strategy. Now, creating compelling content would sound something like this. You'd say, one of the things we do here, one of the components of value we bring to the relationship is we want to make this home look like it's, you know, HGTV, Bravo, Bel Air Living's finest. So I'm going to come here with my film crew and we're going to create compelling content. What does compelling mean? It means it doesn't suck. It means it's something people want to watch. It's engaging. Mm-hmm. And we're going to use these key components from the home seller insights to highlight some of these key things. Now, people aren't going to watch a 6, 7, 8, 9-minute video, but they will watch it for 90 seconds. Fast-paced, drone, music. And I like to play a little game here called Show, Don't Tell, where I just take my phone and say, for example, boom, here's a video we did up the street. It got 33,000 views before we were active on the market and we had people beating down the door. Do you think that would help generate multiple offers? Say yes. So we're talking about photo, we're talking about video, and here's what no one does, Alan. And this is what I've discovered. And now that I've been kind of moving and shaking around the country, asking people what they do,
right?
Because I'm trying to make this better.
Absolutely.
This is as good as I think I can get it now, but I'm sure someone's going to have something better. No one understands how to target compelling content, photo and video and text, which Alan's the master at. No one can write a listing description like him. You should start a company just writing listing descriptions because your brain from Town Advisor and all this stuff is just magical. So you have the photo, the video, the text. No one knows how to distribute this properly because agents have had the crutch of IDX, which is the Internet Data Exchange. When you put the house in the MLS, it goes to Zillow and Realtor.com and a billion other websites. That's not good enough anymore because you want to get top of funnel. You want to even go more macro and take the control into your own hands. Here's how you do it. You create that compelling content. Who's going to see it? Now, this is a whole nother book that we're not going to go into, but intelligent distribution of compelling content across each social media channel that you can target. And when I talked to the CEO of Chalk Digital, Craig, and some of our other amazing partners, they can help you do this at a level that no one else in the industry is doing.
Because, Andrew, you're not just doing social media, you're doing social media marketing, and there's a world of difference between the two.
People don't understand the difference between social media networking, and social media
Kids
marketing.
are doing social media. They're on TikTok and YouTube. I'm paying you to do social media marketing.
Which is when I say, Alan, I don't care if every 12-year-old on Instagram sees this video. We know the buyer profile demographic for this house. They're going to be between the ages of 28 and 55, living in a 15-mile radius, making over $200K. If we can get everyone to see this before we're on the market, it's going to give us a competitive advantage. So that's a lot of dialogue, but this immense digital influence is a major game changer. And look, God bless them. These agents out there, average age, and this has nothing to do with age, but just the fact, the average age of a real estate professional is 57. They might not be as well versed in creating compelling content and certainly not distributing it properly across YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok in an intelligent fashion. So,
Andrew, this is not a lot of content for people that take their career seriously. Your family's in the medical community. Doctors take 7 years of study, and then before they even get practicing. Medical students first work on cadavers before they get to the live ones. Most realtors just go right to the live ones. Okay, there's not even the step of preparing like this. When you think of the thousands of hours, there's 8,600 whatever hours in a year. When you think of the thousands of hours network colleagues spend in trying to get listings, not to take an hour or so to be better prepared, to have more confidence. See, the whole idea of what we're doing is to create greater confidence. Because a lot of realtors will say this, my problem's not the listing presentation, I get 90%. But sometimes those are friends and referrals. Those are people in the sphere of influence. Ships are safer in the harbor, but they're meant to go out to sea. If somebody's going to list on a much greater volume, they have to have confidence that no one can say no to them. And that requires what we're getting into.
absolutely. So yeah, this immense digital influence piece is key. And again, this is only step 2 in the 7-level step up. So in the interest of getting through it all.
But we're not like role playing like we're in a home here.
No.
This is educational, right?
We want, and when you get this sheet, Alan still has it in front of him, so I'm gonna hold up. This is how you present. Home seller insights, immense digital influence. And again, we play show, don't tell. We show them the compelling content. This is major differentiation. And you're confident, you're in control. And here's the questions you'd ask the home seller. Do you think putting this together for your home will increase our chances of attracting buyers to this home without relying on just the real estate ecosystem, which we're going to cover? It's an emphatic yes. And you're nodding when you're saying this, going to the micro psychology of selling.
Right.
So the next one on the 7-level step up is content-rich open houses.
Well, let's stay with the theme of range, reach, and influence.
Yes.
Folks, one of the reasons that I love to have open houses for my clients is because it has everything to do with influencing buyers directly. That oftentimes is the greatest opportunity that I have to speak directly to the buyers in terms of the story that we're creating here tonight. But not only do I do open houses, all realtors, for the most part, do open houses. I do content-rich open houses.
Major difference.
And here's the reason for that. Because a lot of people are uncomfortable when they come to open houses. That's why they don't like to sign in. Sometimes they'll even write their name that you can't read it. Sometimes they'll even write a phony name. So my job is to have people become more comfortable, because if they're not comfortable with me, folks, they're not going to be comfortable with your home. So I don't want to punish your chances because I have flawed atmospheric. So therefore, what I do is as a forever agent, we have content-rich open houses. I have guides here, moving with children, moving with pets, how to downsize, because this basically creates interest. Just like if somebody goes into a hospital, you may see how to reduce your blood pressure,
right,
how to cure diabetes 2 or whatever that is. So we have content-rich open houses, and also, if you like, I have a communication system to make sure that we maximize the possibility of somebody buying your home. For example, if I say to somebody, in your opinion, do you feel this home might meet your family's lifestyles? If they say no, I'm not thinking, well, here's another home. I'm going to say, well, apparently you have some reason for feeling that way. May I ask what it is? Well, because we think the bedrooms are too small. Your bedrooms are great size, but I'm just using this as an example. Well, we think the bedrooms are too small. Well, folks, if you weren't concerned about the size of the bedrooms, let's say the bedrooms are more to your liking, then in your opinion, do you feel this home might meet your family's needs? And then they may say something like, yeah, but we really want to get larger bedrooms. And then I might say, well, the fact that the bedrooms aren't as large may be the very reason that this is a great buy for you, because if you had larger bedrooms, you'd be in the other section of Bel Air. Those homes are $300,000 more. Then I have folks what is called the feel, felt, found technique.
right.
I will say to the buyer, well, you know, a lot of people who moved here originally felt the same way, but what they found is that Bel Air is so vibrant, the kids aren't in their bedrooms hibernating. Okay, they're out in the community. Plus, you've got such wonderful principal rooms, your family room, the backyard. Okay, now I'm not saying, folks, that that's going to be lead to, okay, we want to buy the house, but I just want to give you a sense. I don't just sit open houses. I don't just manage open houses, because I represent you, and you and I is one. I do everything I can to politely, without any pressure, without any intensity, I try to maximize the interest in everybody that shows interest in your home.
So that content-rich open house is huge, and I've been explaining this quite a bit. And the fact that you actually have this content that is statistically proven to attract different walks of life throughout your home and the presentation is unbelievably powerful. Like, did you know 72% of people have pets? They might not want to talk to you, and most agents just accost people when they walk in. They want them to sign in. We have a technique called have them sign out. Major distinction.
Exactly. And Andrew, one other thing is like this. Think of this. How many times have you gone into a retail department store and you were approached by a salesperson, may I help you, that actually irritated you? Yet 10 minutes later, when you're looking at merchandise that you're interested in, you're actually frustrated if you can't find the salesperson. We have to learn the way the rest of the world functions. Okay? People, they go into Tiffany's, they're not going through JFK-like security. So we have to do a better job of having people feel comfortable, then getting them to sign up because they want all of this content.
So before we jump to the next one, because I'm so passionate about open houses, I think it's the fastest way to increase your income. It should be a cornerstone of many agents' businesses. You get to turn this beautiful property into your store for 2, 3, 4 hours on a weekend, both days if you want to, if you have a little bit of hustle and you want to take this seriously. It's not just a content-rich open house, Alan. It's a well-marketed, it's a well-networked, content-rich open house. What do I mean well-marketed? When you're explaining to the seller, we say, look, we're going to mark this house as an open house on a Tuesday. Every single IDX website on Zillow, Trulia, Realtor.com will flag this as an open house. It's going to attract every single buyer who's actively out shopping, raising the flag that says, hey, come to 123 Main Street, it'll be open. It's well marketed. It's well networked because we're going to let all the other agents know. And by the way, 90% of the real estate sold by 10% of the agents. We're going to target the top 10 and say, send your buyers to this open house. This is the first look. So it's well marketed. It's well networked. It's content rich. And it's not just the programs that are attracting all walks of life. You have to have the data. This goes back to being proficient in preparation in your open house. Of course, you have here's all the active homes, here's the sold homes, here's the ones that are pending. So you can say things like this when you're talking to a home buyer. Hey, so you're looking between 400 and 500 here in downtown Baltimore and Canton. Well, did you know there's 7 homes active that are similar to this one? 18 are pending. 36 have sold in the last 6 months. You should know that because that's what an appraiser is going to look at. The list to sales price ratio is about 101%. So you can expect to pay 1% over asking price. And you have all this data. You're being so consultative with this buyer. But going back to the listing presentation, the whole goal
Not
here
the
is
listing presentation.
the customized marketing proposal.
Andrew, I'm going to walk
He's
out
disgusted. I don't know if you caught that.
of this. All this work? Go ahead.
He's
Andrew, please. What got into you?
Getting back to the customized home marketing system is you have to explain to the home seller that this is your first opportunity to directly influence buyers once they're in your home.
And Andrew, another thing, Mr. Homeowner, that I like to get your opinion on is that we have, within our brand, we have a program called Neighbors Know Best.
Yes.
And Neighbors Know Best is based on this premise. In the world of ratings and reviews, the most trusted form of advertising are from PEERS. I'll say it, I'll spell it because of my Boston accent. Peers, because I may sound like the fruit. Okay?
Peers.
By contemporaries, people that are already using the product. So what I like to do is I like to go to the neighbors and get some testimonials, because then I can have a sheet at the open house called Neighbors Know Best, because they love to know what people think who live here, okay? So if we decide to work together, would that be something that you'd like me to do? And of course, if there's anybody you wouldn't want me to visit, and I understand, I wouldn't. How do you feel about that?
It's absolutely beautiful. So all this stuff is connected. And once we get to the end, we're going to show you each one of these things has been forensically examined and placed in the right order here. And the other piece of it is when you're doing these things, and you can even explain this to the home seller, you're not doing anything sleazy. These are not only going to help the home seller maximize their value, it's going to help you get more listings, help you get more credibility, build your personal brand, be the knowledge broker, the reason of trust.
And then the other thing, I'm going to make another statement that's going to be to both audiences here, both you as the homeowner and the network agents. They're going to say this. Oh, and by folks, let me acknowledge there's another reason why I like to do this, because this also helps me potentially represent neighbors in the future when they want to sell their homes, okay? And people like that because it shows you're industrious, you're strategic, and you're intelligent.
Yeah, you're what I call disarmingly honest. When I
Right.
go over through all these...
Exactly.
When I'm going over the drone video and some of this immense digital influence, I say, folks, I'm not just doing this to increase the value of your home.
Yeah.
I'm doing it because I want to list every single home
Exactly.
on this block.
It's like
And
one
they
of
love
my favorite ads I wrote for my company is this. And people in the network, some of you're going to jump on this. I used to advertise this back then. If you're selling your home, and if you don't select our company, then we're both going to lose money.
Do you like that?
Because that's honest. People love, it's disarmingly honest.
All right, so now we've covered home seller insights, immense digital influence, content-rich open house. And this is where we have to talk about the brand.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
We want to talk about the brand.
it's what an opportunity. Guys, guess what? No other brand can say these things we're about to say. We're introducing the brand. Let me kick it off because I was already coached up by Alan before I gave this presentation in Omaha. And you always ask, look, we're in control, consultative, collaborative, confident. How important do you think brands are in general in influencing consumer behavior? That's the question to the homeowner.
Again, range, reach, and influence. Influencing.
We're transitioning from content-rich open houses. You say, okay, now that we've covered that, how important do you think brands are in general in influencing consumer behavior? That's right.
Yeah.
They're very important. 95% of consumers' purchases are brand influences. And we have a brand that's synonymous with physical success, with trust, integrity, stability, and longevity.
And if I have a major executive, I'm going to say, and financial rectitude.
Wow. Okay. Save that for an
Save
executive.
Save that for a high-level executive.
Yeah. So when you're explaining this brand, because only Berkshire Hathaway has this.
Exactly.
And
Berkshire Hathaway Home Services.
well, Berkshire Hathaway in general.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
Berkshire Hathaway. Look,
Yeah.
we have the Oracle of Omaha talking about why forever is important. And we're
Yeah.
forever agents. So that brand's really important. And you always want to mention the halo effect. And many consumers, guys, look, these home sellers aren't dumb. You can bring this stuff up, and it's a great conversation. It's collaborative. You say, have you ever heard of the halo effect? And they may say yes, or you just explain it because you don't want to ask them a question they might not know the
You want
answer
them to imagine a halo over their home.
Right. The halo effect is simply this. The tendency for an impression.
Let's go outside and see if we can see it.
Don't do that. Never leave
Yeah,
the
exactly.
kitchen table.
Right.
All right, look, I can't take any more bad ideas out of you. Okay, so halo effect, the tendency for an impression created in one area to influence the opinion in another area. And there's all the studies. Alan's the senior VP of Research and Development, so don't go on the diatribe on how we're the only ones who can document trust, because that's another podcast.
Right.
But this halo effect is so important for the home sellers to get because the fact that Berkshire Hathaway, our parent company, is one of the most profound, most trusted brands in all the world, and us over here at our brand, we can leverage that. And my favorite line that I'm pretty sure I got it from you, like most of my stuff these days, is you say, look, anyone can put a sign in your yard.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Anybody can put a sign in your yard, but not my sign.
Exactly, that's it.
And when you say that, you hold it. We're not joking. We're not smiling. Anyone can put a sign in your yard, but not my sign. You blow a hole right through them with that statement.
Andrew, I'm sorry that I'm here when you have to say it, so you can't pretend it was your idea. Forgive me for that. Okay.
I got plenty of runway to pretend that these are mine in the future.
Go ahead.
But the way I say it's mine.
Oh, the way you say it's amazing.
The way I say it's
difference.
mine.
The way you look, the way you say it, it makes all the difference in the world.
So boom, that's 4. Brand significant. Anything you want to add to brand significance?
Yeah, because then if the homeowner presses you, and the reason why we want to say in general is because the home sellers aren't accustomed to attributing brand significance to real estate brands, because most brands are also defined by a specific product, a Big Mac, a McDonald's, a Mercedes. It's automatically distinctive. Whereas real estate's a service, so it's tougher. And so by asking how important do you think real estate brands are in general, they'll say yes. Then you go to that. But the other thing is if they ever press you, well, how does it really matter in real estate? Well, Andrew, because of our brand, it informs us that while most of the industry focuses more on selling more homes, because of our brand and what it represents and the halo effect, our focus is on getting homes sold for more. And also because of our brand, a lot of real estate companies, they focus more on personal promotion, but because of our form, we just naturally focus more on property promotion. And the other thing is this, a lot of people, they're more likely with a very venerated brand like ours to, in terms of influence, we hear buyers all the time calling their families back home saying, I'm looking at this great property. It's a Berkshire Hathaway home. Now, we wish to say it's a Berkshire Hathaway Home Services, but we can't discipline all of them. But believe me, they're not saying that for many, if not any other brands. But they do say, yeah, I'm looking at a Berkshire Hathaway property. And you've got to say that to home sellers because it's the truth.
Well, you just reminded me of an important point that I missed on brand significance before we jump into the real estate ecosystems, which is this. Some brands focus only on the high end.
Yeah.
Some brands focus on waterfront. Some brands take these niche approaches, and there's nothing wrong with that. And there's a lot of good brands out there. But our brand's for everyone because we're an aspirational brand. We're a for everyone brand. You have to bake that in there because we serve all swaths of people. So we have the benefit of having this extremely powerful brand, but it's also powerful that it's for everybody. Some brands, won't get out of bed for a listing under $1 million, and that's not us because we're for everyone, and everyone wants to be aspirational.
And there's one other thing, and I'm glad that we're being comprehensive because the network deserves this. And I don't mean to sound pompous or pedantic, but this is important. Another thing to say is that, folks, we're a luxury when this is appropriate. Folks, even though we're a luxury brand, other luxury brands only define the property. Our brand also defines the aspirations of the buyer because we're an aspirational brand. Beautiful. Because it also suggests prudent decision-making.
So we just gave you a ton of ammo to talk about your brand significance. So again, home seller insights, immense digital influence, content-rich open houses, brand significance. Now we're going to talk about...
And the other thing, Andrew, when you talk about the brand or anytime you're saying something that sounds like you're being boastful, you can always also say this. And each one of these, we may have 100 people that just pick this, or they like that idea. So we like to throw things out.
Sure.
We're one of the top 5 or 6 most respected brands, the Berkshire Hathaway, although we're Berkshire Hathaway Home Services. But I know that means nothing to you unless we get you the best results. Because then what you're doing, you're balancing pomposity with humility, and you're basically directing everything to the homeowner. It's never about you. I've sold this much of real estate, but I know that means nothing to you unless we get you the best results. We're the most respected brand in real estate, but I know that means nothing to you unless we get you the best results. People love that.
You got to bake that into your customized home marketing system and proposal. But the pro tip is here, anytime you're saying anything about yourself, your brand, your company, your stats, how great you are, you always bake in, but I know that means nothing to you unless we can get you the results you
Exactly.
desire, or some form of it.
And then anytime you're bragging in your advertising, you should always put this: my clients deserve the very best. Everything you do is for others. It's got to be reflected in everything you say and everything you advertise on social media.
Exactly. So let's talk about real estate ecosystems now, which is point 5 in the 7-level step up. And when Alan and I were going over this, we've determined there's 2 real estate ecosystems. Mm-hmm. So when you're presenting that to the home seller, how would you frame that in terms of the ability to effectively manage 2 real estate ecosystems?
Well, the first ecosystem is that, and what I used to always do, because I was generally with one of my associates, and I would always go, so let's say I was with you, okay? Mm-hmm. I would always say to the home seller, and these are industry points. When we sell a home, we have to sell it twice, first to the real estate community, then to the agent, or statistically, I will not be selling your home, but I'll be the reason it sells. I'm not a virtuoso, I'm a symphony conductor. All of this is speaking to the fact that there's a ecosystem. I used to show the ad that all the other companies were part of it. So if somebody said, well, gee, we're thinking of talking to this other company, well, that company's already part of our marketing system. They're already part of our ecosystem. Right. So every single agent in the network has been bestowed and blessed with a ecosystem because of the MLS, IDX, and the NAR.
Right.
And without that, we would be completely dysfunctional, and it would be tough for anyone to have optimized value, okay? Right. Everyone knows of that real estate ecosystem. But folks, there's another real estate ecosystem, and that is all of the participants of not only a transaction, but everything to do with post purchasing. And why don't you speak to that, Andrew?
Yeah, so Alan just discussed is the agent ecosystem. We have to effectively manage the agents that are going to be involved in this process. We incorporate every single brand, every agent that's involved in the local MLS. And no real estate company has more than 20% market share. But guess what? 100% of the homes are sold by 100% of the agents. So we include all of them in our marketing system. How do we do that? We're effectively targeting agents who probably have buyers to be interested in this home, regardless of the company. We include them all. So that's what Alan was describing. Anything?
No, go ahead. Yeah.
And so you have to manage that agent ecosystem, but you also have to manage what we call the home services ecosystem, which is all the stakeholders, all the cast of characters that may impact the value of this home, the successful outcome and transaction of this home. And that can be starting with getting the home ready from, cleaners, contractors, prepping the home ready, landscapers, to once you're engaged in the process, professional photographers, videographers. And then once your home's under contract, we have, lender, title, home inspector, termite inspector, well and septic, et cetera, et cetera. There's so many people that we have to effectively manage. And unfortunately for us, because we've sold over $1 billion of real estate in the last 12 years, which I know means nothing to you unless we can get you the best result, is we have allies in these areas. And we haven't met a problem that we couldn't solve because we have the ability to effectively manage 2 ecosystems, the agents and everybody else.
And another way of pointing this out, and again, we want to be very elaborate here. This is a buffet today, is to also, here's another thing, another soundbite, if you will. But again, language is the clothing of ideas. You can say this to a home seller. Berkshire Hathaway is who we are, home services is what we do. The other thing, when you speak about your real estate ecosystem, because you got to be very careful not having people thinking that you're offending their lack of readiness. A lot of people are very prideful of their home, especially what you just paid yesterday for the cleaning, okay? Okay, a lot of people are very prideful of their home, so you've got to be very delicate with that. So I suggest this. Folks, in 20 years of real estate, from $20 million homes to more modest properties, I have yet to see a home that could not be improved before taken to market by a little additional staging, whether it be staging that doesn't cost a penny, just ideas, all the way up to merchandising. And I'm very happy to point out things that I think can further enhance the value of your home. So make sure they're not taking it as an insult, so you're contextualizing it. Folks, in 20 years, I've never seen a home that couldn't be improved prior to being brought to the marketplace.
I'm so glad you brought that up, because when we get to the timeline, which is kind of my baby here, this top piece of this forum,
Right.
you always start with your ecosystem and who you're going to get involved to make sure we're preparing this property for sale.
Yeah.
So that's a beautiful line. I have not met a home in 12 years that couldn't be improved by staging, because guess what? That's for everyone.
It's for everyone.
And how true is it?
It's the truth.
You know what? A lot of agents wimp out
Everything
there.
we say is the truth.
Of course. And a lot of agents wimp out there because they're so afraid of offending them. But Alan just gave you the language. It's impossible to offend anybody because every home could be improved by this. Of course they could.
That's why we keep referencing things and throwing things out here. Even though we could be accused of going on and on, this is critical.
Well, do you want to master your customized marketing proposal or not? That's my question to you. Because if you're not interested in this, if you don't love it, if you're not rewinding it, writing it down and playing it back, you're not doing it right. Because you don't practice on paychecks. Don't practice when you're going into the home. This is the prep that you do with your team, with your friends, get an accountability partner and master this stuff. If you want to be in this.
So you believe that it's impossible for somebody not to list with you?
Yeah, I mean, that's how I feel. And that's why I'm willing to do
That's
the
how I
behaviors
feel.
to go out and get more listings. Now,
When I travel a lot, I ask people, can I go on your presentations? Because I love it. There's nothing because I like to honor people and make them feel great about how they live. It's a wonderful state to be in. Like I was when I went to Fargo.
Oh, yeah, don't get me started on Fargo, but that's why I am going to take Alan, because he's in our hometown. I'm going to say, hey, can you write me a couple listing descriptions for these 2 listings I just took? It's called getting unpaid consulting. That's another skill I have if you want to.
Well, I'll tell you what I won't write. Park-like setting. But anyway, let's go.
So I'm going to tee this up. Now, we only have 2 more steps in the 7-level step up, and we're going to wrap this up in terms of the present and propose piece of this, because we still got to go over pricing and post.
That'll be the next segments.
So how important, Alan, Mr. Home Seller, how important do you think it is for a buyer's agent to show your home property, to show your home properly to their buyer clients? This is getting into cooperative showing suggestions, okay? Key step, cooperative showing suggestions, and that's the question you ask. So Alan, you created this, so take it from the top on why this is important, how the lingo goes. Take us through cooperative showing suggestions.
Well, what I did, in fact, I actually hired a few English majors from the local university, Ramapo University, college rather, to be in my cooperative showings division. And so I would go on all of the marketing presentations and I'd say, as you did, folks, another part of our customized home marketing system that has everything to do with influence, because again, we have to influence buyer and buyer agents, is what we call the cooperative showing suggestions. Now, these aren't highlight sheets, because a lot of agents have highlight sheets. These are cooperative showing suggestions. And before I explain how they work, let me ask you this question. How important is it to you, to the 2 of you, the way that you think that the way that a buyer agent is going to show your property to the buyer? Oh, Alan's very important. But see, unfortunately, folks, whereas real estate agents in Baltimore have been trained on how to show homes in general, unlike a builder or developer, they're not trained to show individual homes. And because of that, let me tell you what happens. A lot of times a buyer agent will bring their buyer to a magnificent home like yours, a very distinctive property, but it doesn't matter because they're going to open up your closet and say, I think this is the family room. Now, when that happens, that kills all of the influence that buyer agent has with their buyer, because it signals to the buyer This agent doesn't know anything about the home. They don't know any more than I do. So they can't sell the property. That's why we've created a program called Cooperative Showing Suggestions, which means if you'd be willing to work together, we would actually put together little pithy a showing strategy for all of the highlights of the home, and then I will email that to buyer agents, okay? So let me ask you this. If we decide to work together and you give me the honor of representing you and you give me the green light tonight so we can get your property in the market here in Baltimore before defoliation sets in, would you commit to me to be able to help me put together, because no one knows the home as well as you do, would you help me put together these showing strategies?
Yes.
Okay, that's great. Now, here's something else I would say. Now, Andrew, on that subject, in terms of what buyer or buyer agents are going to say, the prevailing wisdom in real estate is that we're supposed to tell you not to be home during showings.
Right.
And the reason that's the prevailing wisdom in real estate is because buyers want to take psychic ownership. They may think anything that you say is unduly subjective. They want to linger. They may not want to be critical in your presence. So that's the prevailing logic within our industry. But I've got to tell you, certain buyers, certain homeowners that I meet with, and you too would be in that category, the way you showed the property, you were not hyperbolic. You're extensive. The fact that you're an engineer, you have so much knowledge about the property, Susan, okay? Let me ask you this. With certain buyers and with advance notice, would you be willing, even right from the beginning, to meet them and be part of the showing? Now, this may never happen, but with certain buyers, especially if people are coming in from Norway or the Northern Europe or from the Midwest, would you be willing to do that with them, okay? Andrew, now we're in real time here. I can't tell you, because I would say this, and it's the truth, because sometimes the buyers have more in common with the homeowners than they do the agent. The buyers understand why you're prideful, but they also know that you know this home the best. So with advance notice and with certain buyers, would you be willing to also be involved in the showing of the home?
Yeah, that sounds fantastic.
Okay, so I would always tie that in there as well. Okay.
So confident, collaborative, consultative, totally in control. You're never going to hear, and I fought Alan on this a little bit, but I totally get it now. When you tell a homeowner that's one of the highest compliments they can ever get.
Huh.
What you're saying, without saying it, is, I think so highly of you.
Exactly.
And
how you can control yourself and compose yourself.
But we've all had scenarios when the buyers talk to the sellers directly, which in the industry at large is a no-no. It smooths the deal over. People can solve their own problems. And we interject ourselves sometimes when we shouldn't. So on a second or third showing, you can plan for the seller to be there. That's a great piece to bring up because it strokes the seller, it tenderizes the seller, it makes them feel part of the process, totally collaborative. And you tell them it might not ever happen, and oftentimes it might not, but it's good to have that option.
Well, by the way, when my wife and I moved out to California, we were referred to this agent, a top producer, because I was an executive in the company. And at that time, my poor daughter's passed away, but she was in a wheelchair. She was quadriplegic. And we had the most disgusting experience with this agent of our life. She was the only person that ever made my daughter cry. She'd show us homes, and if he was 3 rooms away from the TV, she'd say, "Oh, you can still see the TV from here." No one in all the years Laura was alive, 15 years paralyzed, did anybody ever upset her. This agent was brutal, right? Then we saw a home that we forced her to show us. She didn't want to show us this because she tried to get the listing and she was turned down. So she discouraged us from seeing that property. But the agents who are with Berkshire Hathaway Home Services, Pam and Siggy, if they're seeing this, they'll remember this. They were at another home and I said, "Oh, you should look at this house." So our agent said, "No, I don't think they like that house." But my wife said, "No, we drove by that. It looks kind of nice." So we went, and the home sellers were so nice, and they actually said, "You know what? We have a place in Colorado that's on one level that's handicap accessible. If you folks ever, whether you buy this or not, we unbelievably bonded with these home sellers. And so a lot of times things like that happen, but that's the exception, not the rule, because I one time had a home seller that was so hyperbolic, was so over the top, so aggressive, so defensive, so crazy about putting out his home that I actually went to him. His first name was Brian. I says, Brian, can I send over a TV crew? Because I like to film you talking to buyers so I can show this in the training and to other home sellers why they should never be involved. Okay? And he said, yeah, fine with me. Okay? He was that crazy.
Yeah, so it's a case-by-case basis.
Exactly.
So getting back to the 7-level step-up, we talked about home seller insights, immense digital influence, content-rich open house, brand significance, real estate ecosystems, and we just covered cooperative showing suggestions, which again, the anchor here is how important do you folks think it is for a buyer's agent to show your home properly? Great. And the other hook here is you say, look, when we create these cooperative showing suggestions, we're going to send it to the agents before they show the property. And you know what? Half of them won't even open it. 60% of them probably won't even open this. But the top agents love this.
And the reason you say, and a lot of them aren't even going to open it, what you're basically saying, because they're not professional like me.
Because they're not.
That's why they're not here. That's why you don't want to interview anybody, because you might be stuck with someone like that.
Yeah, and 10% of the real estate, whatever the stats are in your market, 20% of the real estate sold by, or 80% is sold by 20%. Pareto principles holds true. That is so key. The cooperative showing suggestions. Again, it's the 4 C's. It's a nice little touch.
Andrew,
there.
one other thing that goes back to the cooperation. This is something that if the shoe fits, wear it in a positive sense. Some of you might like to say this to some homeowners when it comes to cooperation. I've made it a practice over the last 20 years, even though I fiercely negotiate on behalf of my clients, I do so in a way that elevates the professionalism and respects the buyer agent in front of their clients. In fact, a lot of people refer to me as, they call me the realtor's realtor. Okay? People love to hear that.
No, absolutely.
It's like you're the maestro. Everyone loves to work with you. Everybody will bring their buyers.
Yeah, and we get so many compliments on this cooperative showing suggestions program and system because we've systemized a way for the buyer's agents to maintain credibility and to show this home properly. You always say that to a home seller. We get compliments from the top agents say, thank you so much for sending me this cooperative showing suggestions. I would have never known to look out the primary bedroom window because we were seeing it at 5 throughout this sunset.
And by the way, and who's going to say, oh, we'd be happy to do that with you, Andrew, but we're not listing with you.
Right.
They're in.
And one thing I added to this.
And they're not going to challenge you on the fee.
Is the cooperative.
And by the way, and folks, we do this for our clients, and this is all within our standard fee, whatever you say it is. That's the time you bring up your fee. You don't wait till have a dispute later. And when they, oh my God, this is great. You do this, you do that. Yeah, and this is all part of our standard, whatever the fee is, okay? And then you just move on. They get the message.
If you're taking us to fee, I got to say this. Here's the pro tip. Anytime these home sellers' eyes light up, and sometimes it's during immense digital influence. Sometimes it's they're so taken aback that you're so collaborative with the home seller insights. Sometimes you're blowing them away with your well-marketed, networked, content-rich open house. Each point of the 7-level step up, everybody's different. Sometimes they're just going to go, oh my gosh, we've never even heard of such a thing. Anytime you get that window, you drop
That's
it.
You jump on it. You seize right on it.
Oh, guys, this is all included in our company standard 6%.
Exactly.
Or whatever it is. All fees are negotiable.
Right.
But that's when you drop it in. You do not make the commission conversation an event because what you're doing is you're making the home seller feel like they have to fight you. Hey, is it okay if we charge X?
Make it easy on them.
Yeah, it's all included in there.
Let them off the hook. They don't want to fight on this. They just think they have to.
Never make the fee an event.
Exactly. But wait till they love something.
That anytime. And you can bring it up multiple times.
By the way, I love your brand. Oh, you're the best thing. It's all part of our fee.
Each one of these things. And then we're going to end on the customized editions as far as the 7-level step up. Now, guys, we riffed on a lot of these points. You can get through this in 12 minutes with a home seller.
Exactly.
12 minutes. Because they get to dictate the pace. You're giving them what they want. And every good salesperson knows, hey, you got to know when to stop talking. You got to know when to lean in. You got to do your matching and mirroring. It's in our DNA. We're already good at sales. But just know that home seller insights, immense digital influence, content-rich open house, brand significance, ecosystems, cooperative showing suggestions, these are the 7 things we do that no one else does. Here's what everybody else does. Personally, I like to call it, of course, marketing. This is what everyone does, of course. Of course I'm going to have a sign. Of course I'm going to do this.
Right.
Of course I'm going to take pictures.
Yeah.
When I go to the hotel,
Yeah.
you don't ask if there's going to be towels there. Of course
Yeah.
there's towels there.
I'm not going to insult your intelligence by telling you we put for sale signs in open houses.
But these are the things that no one else does that we feel are unbelievably important. No one else does home seller insights. They don't have the immense.
And then after we do the price, you get to the end and you have a trial close.
We'll go.
We'll do that later?
No, right here, right now, because this is customize
Okay.
and close.
Yeah.
Customize and close. So the last thing is customizations. What's the question you ask them after all that?
Well, here's what you should never ask. Never ask anybody, do you have any more questions? You ask open-ended questions at the beginning. You don't at the end, okay? Because if you say, have you any more questions, you could be there, it could all unravel. You've got to control it. Also, never say, well, gee, when would you like to get started? Because people have an approach avoidance conflict, Andrew, about getting started. And if they say, well, in a month or so, you're dead in the water. Ask and never start begging. Well, I'd really love to represent you because they'll sense you're overly concerned and anxious. Very comfortably, your first trial close. Well, based on our customized home marketing system, Andrew, in your opinion, do you feel that we can do an effective job of marketing your property? Now, you say we if you're not a big producer. If you're a big producer, in your opinion, do you believe that I can do an effective job of marketing property based on this plan? They're all going to say yes. Great. Now all I have is one last question. How soon would you love to have your magnificent home sold to the right buyer?
We missed one thing.
Good.
Okay.
I'm not going to say that then. Is there anything I should add?
Yes, you got to ask.
That's one way. Another way is this. Andrew, is there anything that you can think of from a marketing standpoint that is not in this customized marketing and networking plan that we should include?
I love asking that. Because you know what? They always say no.
There's nothing. Because years ago they would have said, well, can we be in the New York Times in the full run? They don't bring that up anymore because people know newspaper advertising doesn't sell real estate. So there's nothing they can think of, and it shows them that you have so comprehensive, you're so strategic, you're so sensitive, it's off to the races.
Well, it shows that you're confident.
But you have to have a closing technique, because if you don't have that, because that's the trial close. Is there anything that you can think of that is not part of my customized marketing and networking plan, system that should be here? When they say no, great. Now all I have is one last question. How soon would you like to have your magnificent home sold to the right buyer? Say in a month.
In a month.
Great. It's great to represent you. Let's get started. If they say to 3, great, we don't have time pressure, let's get started. That's going to help in negotiation. If they say right away, yeah, I wish I was here 2 weeks ago, but I'm happy at least we're getting started now. Boom, shake their hand.
Now, this is when you have to put it on a timeline. Now, this is when I used to give my entire marketing proposal on a timeline. I take out a pen, piece of paper, boom. And you want to put key dates around these items for the home seller so they can psychologically start taking ownership of this process. Because moving's a big deal. They're going to have to get all their stuff out. It's a really stressful situation. They say it's like the third most stressful event in people's lives behind death and divorce is moving. And it is tough, particularly with kids. That's why I have the program. Now,
the program, you mean moving with children?
Right.
Yeah.
See, this all bakes in. Now, when you do that trial close, is there anything you'd like to add that we can customize for your specific property that I may have missed? They say no. Okay, great. Now, let's talk a little bit about time frame. When would you like to have this truly distinctive, magnificent home formally on the market? Well, and a lot of times they'll say things like, well, we want to be out of here by December. We want to have Christmas in the new house, or whatever the case is. Great. Shake their hand, trial close. Now, let me show you how this works.
By the way, Andrew, before you go any further, and I want you to get on your famous roll on this, if somebody says, well, we want to be out of here by December, again, I'm always making it feel good. I would then say like this, and I'm sure it's going to be very, very tough to leave this caliber of lifestyle. Always selling.
Yeah, and I'm not going to go into ways to where you can make sure you lock them in as a buyer on their next purchase, because that's a different topic. Good. But you go over this timeline. Now, we're going to have this provided for the network agents. Now, you have here's what everyone does at the bottom. Here's our 7-level step up of what we do differently here at the Sure Group of Berkshire Hathaway Home Services. And here's the timeline. Now, the timeline is so unbelievably important, because if you're going to take listings at scale, and that's what we all want to do, right now.
Amen.
Like
exactly.
We're taking 2, 3, 4, 5 a week. We have to have this timeline down so we can effectively serve this consumer properly and many consumers properly. And it goes back into the post too, which we're going to get to. So if they say, I want to be out of here by December, or we want to get the house on the market, within the month, the first step is here. Okay, so is there anything we need to do to get this home ready? Because the most critical date that's in your control, and what we can only focus on what's in our control, is what day can we have our photographers come in and our full video crew to create this compelling content for our immense digital influence.
A photo marketing specialist.
Exactly. Is there anything we need to do to prepare? So now, I think that front door could get cleaned up. These windowsills are a little dirty. There's a couple ripped screens. This is easy stuff. We have a whole ecosystem that can solve these problems. Oh, you do? Great. Boom.
It's amazing how little has to be done.
Exactly. So you say, boom, what days it can be ready for photo, video? So you say, hey, how about by 9/5, we'll have the home ready for photo, video. We're going to come in and get the pictures. 3 days after that, we're going to start our targeted digital distribution. Guys, we're not on the market yet. So 3 days later, by 9/8, we're going to start marketing your property across all social media channels on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, TikTok. And again, we don't care if every 12-year-old on Instagram sees it. We want buyers most likely to buy your home to be interested. So here's who we're going to target. All the top agents, ecosystem, and our buyer profile demographics. And folks, I know who the buyer is for your home. They're between the ages of 28 and 55.
Wow.
And you have to be prepared for that. That's part of being proficient in preparation. You have to have your buyer avatar, your buyer profile demographics locked in. That's only if you want to market like the year we live in and be an elite marketer. And by the way, this is a marketing proposal. So boom, photo, video, targeted distribution. Then we can go coming soon by 9/15. Now coming soon is different in every market, but that's going to allow us to put the home officially into the IDX system without racking up days on market. We're not active, we're coming soon. This gives us additional leverage in controlling this ecosystem. And then, since you want to be out of here by December, I think active, a great day would be 9/27. So boom, photos 9/5, distribution 9/8, coming soon 9/15. You can only do that for 21 days. We're not going to use all 21, I think only 14, 9/27. First weekend is going to be October 4th. That's where we're going to do our content-rich open house. Typically.
This is amazing. You've got everything figured out.
Yeah, and you say these dates are hypothetical. I just want to paint the picture so you guys can kind of feel what this is going to be like. Then we're going to be under contract probably within 30 to 45 days. This is where you got to be very careful and you have to understand your market dynamics. Because you're setting an expectation here. No other agent's got the guts to do this, but I do it every time. And oftentimes you're going to exceed expectations. I think we're going to go.
Mr. Andrew, this is so impressive because the last realtor that we used, they just assumed we knew all this like we're psychics. They didn't take us through all of this.
The timeline
is your industry changing? Is this what it means to be a forever agent?
Yeah, pretty much. So then you're going to contract 11/5, and then boom, typically 30 days after contract, 30 to 45 days, sometime in mid-December, we'll settle. And this is important, guys, so you can see, even if we start in 2 weeks, we're 3 months away from you being out of here. This timeline is so critical, but then I always chunk it down. You're just cruising through that timeline. This is what we want to do. And I say, see all this stuff, and I circle everything before active, which would be prepares, photos, distribution coming soon. You circle it. Say, this is why you need a world-class marketing person. Because most agents stick a sign in the yard, pray to God someone's going to come and sell it, because their only tool is the IDX, and they need to be active to get buyers interested. We do all the heavy lifting up front.
No, those are listing agents instead of marketing agents.
That's a great distinction. Maybe that's what would you say. So you say, one key skill set, you need to have a really skilled world-class marketing system before you put the house.
Yeah, whatever you do, you never want to list with a listing agent.
You see, that's so smart because you're completely changing their paradigm.
That's the proclamation.
It is. Then you circle from active to under contract. In this section, when we're talking about going under contract, and folks, price is one thing, but it's also the terms are unbelievably important. Who's the buyer? What type of loan are they getting? How much are they putting down? Who's the title company? How many contingencies do they have? How long do they have to do these contingencies, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? You need to have a very skilled negotiator, and you have to have someone who's going to be looking out for your best interest, not just in the price, but in every single term, because we want the buyers to march to the beat of our drum. That's my job. I want to maximize your equity, and a lot of times it's through the terms, not just the price. So you need a marketer, and you also need someone who negotiates. And because we're so good at negotiation, that's why we're able to sell and close 2 homes a day, every day. And I know that means nothing to you, unless we can get the best for your house. And then I circle from contract to settlement. once you're under contract and you get to settlement, there's a couple key things I want to point out here. We're going to have to get through a home inspection. We're going to have to get through an appraisal. We're going to have to make sure these buyers get their financing and be in really quality, high-level communication with the buyer's lender. God bless them, most agents don't do that. They don't have a system for that because they think the buyer's agent's going to do it. But I know my job is to coach the buyer's agent on how to manage this
And Andrew, and
process
if they
properly.
use home team inspections, they do, I think, they have a team, so it's a lot faster too.
Oh yeah, shout out to Home Team Inspections. They're the only inspection company we know that sends a whole team of home
Right,
inspectors.
exactly.
So they don't take forever.
And they're one of our preferred vendors.
Well, forever agents don't want their home
Right,
inspections
yeah.
to take forever. That's why they hire Home
Exactly,
Team.
right.
So that contract to settlement's unbelievably important, Alex. Then you can say, you don't just need to be an incredible marketer, a skilled negotiator. You need to be a problem solver. You need to be able to effectively manage these ecosystems because the last thing we're going to do is let this house go back on the market.
Whoa.
Things come up during the home inspection.
Thank you, Mr. Undem, because that happened to us once.
Exactly.
Thank you so much.
Then,
Thank you so much.
for me, when I'm presenting these things in real time, when I talk about the marketing, they're like, "Wow, no one does that. They don't make creative."
And Mr. Undem, as an older person, I almost feel funny calling you Mr. Undem, but geez, the way you're going to take care of us, I feel I should call you Mr. Undem. This is unbelievable.
And anytime you get a compliment, you say, "Hey, look, what I really want is to treat you so well and stuff as much money in your pockets as we possibly can that you feel almost like you have to refer me to your friends and family because
Yeah.
you care about them."
In fact, I'm going to do such a great job for you that you're going to probably want to offer me an additional bonus, but I'm not going to accept it. But anyway.
See, these are great lines. Those are confident lines. You got to be careful with that because that can backfire. But if you're so confident, if you're so confident in your pre-marketing work, your negotiation, and your ability to make problems go away, right after look, money follows value. Fee follows value. You've already embedded it a couple times when you're going over the step up. We do this for our company standard 6%. As soon as I'm done hitting these three things, Alan, I go over what the seller's next. I said, "Hey, look, we talked a little bit about what we do to sell your home. Let's talk a little bit about what you're actually going to net. We do everything we just discussed for a company standard 6%. How much do you own the property? Boom. Okay, so you're going to keep 94% of the sales price. Boom. And you just flow right through it. It's not an event because money follows value. And if you can show an overwhelming amount of value through the 7-level step up, through the timeline, how you're specifically and uniquely able to navigate the marketing, the negotiation, the problem solving, that's when you hit them with the fee.
Andrew, do you think the reason that people have called this a listing presentation for years, and we actually still call the realtor who represents the home seller, which is unbelievable, the listing agent, because I think agents do more than just list the home. Do you think that's also why some realtors still even talk about a commission versus a marketing fee because it comes out of the limited value of a listing presentation?
That's a really good insight. I haven't thought about that, so
Yeah.
I'm going to have to think about it.
Because are there still agents that use the word commission?
I'm sure.
Yeah, okay. But I think that must be because doctors, lawyers, it's always a fee because they see that they have a higher value. But how could a listing agent have value? How could a listing presentation have value? It's a sales pitch.
Now, we have a whole nother podcast on fee validation and how to get your fee, maintain your fee, handle every single rebuttal you've ever heard. We're not going to go into that now. But if you remember at the beginning of the presentation of your customized marketing proposal, you said, "Hey, folks, would you guys like to start with some marketing strategies or some pricing strategies?" I brought both with you today because you're confident, consultative, collaborative, and in control. You're giving them the choice. We went through marketing. Again, you could with a home seller, that might be 15, 20 minutes, maybe 25. We riffed on it for maybe
It's a
an hour.
buffet.
It's a buffet. But let's jump into pricing now.
It's a buffet, but there's structure here.
And then when you say so let's just say, let's talk about pricing. I'm really interested in pricing.
Okay, before we get to pricing, because you're not the homeowner, so I would never not respond to a homeowner, but I can't with us. One other thing that I wanted to add that I didn't, and that is this. When the home seller says, "How are you different?" Okay?
All right.
Or when you want to bring it up. Andrew, rather than focus on how I'm different, I'd much rather focus on how we have to make your property different. You see, I don't compete against other agents here in Metro Baltimore, but your home competes with other homes in the market. I actually cooperate with all the other agents, but your home doesn't cooperate, it competes. And not only does your home compete, but Bel Air competes against other towns. And that's what I'm going to share later. It's one of our other proclamations. A lot of agents just basically serve the community. I both serve this community, but I also represent it. I represent the home values of this entire community. I'm going to show you how I do that. But that's how I'm different, by focusing on what's different about your lifestyle.
And that comes up in Home Seller Insights, if you remember in that first step.
That's one of the proclamations, too.
Oh, absolutely. Serving versus representing. It's a distinction you made that I don't think anyone else in real estate's ever talked about. And again, that's going to be another.
But forever agents are going to become very familiar with it.
Oh, it's a cornerstone.
Yeah.
Because you can only access people through their concerns. And guess what? Every homeowner in Bel Air, because we're sitting here now, guess what they all have in common? They want their properties to increase.
The only way you have access to people is through their concerns. That's the concern. You've got to be all over that. And just to reinforce that.
You're going to want to rewind that and make sure you get that piece. How I'm different is because I focus on how to make your home different.
And you can even bring it up. You can even bring it up in terms of that.
I don't compete with other agents. I actually cooperate with other agents, but unfortunately, your home doesn't cooperate with other homes. It competes with other homes. So we need to find a way to make your home stand out, be unique, so I can effectively manage my ecosystems and influence buyers and buyers agents and the public at large on the unique.
Or you could say this, Andrew. The only a lot of homeowners, a lot of my clients have asked me over the years, Alan, what makes you or your company different? And I always like to say, folks, you're hearing it for the third time, forgive us. Folks, rather than focus on how I'm different, I'd rather focus how we have to make your property different, because I don't compete against other agents, but your home competes against other homes in this county. But if you really want to, I'm not comfortable personalizing my differentiation, but I guess if you'd like me to, I'll just say this. Most realtors focus on how they sell more homes. I sell more homes than 99% of realtors, but that's not my focus. My focus is marketing homes for more. Okay, that's what makes me different. But I can't make your home different unless you work with me, because we have to be the co-authors of this narration.
You know, most agents are going to come and give you a listing presentation, which you probably don't even know what that is, because it's a term we've dragged as an industry for 200 years. I go over customized marketing proposals. So guys, you have to play with this stuff, make it your own, and own it. Because when you own it, only when and if you own this stuff, that's the only way you're going to be confident.
Yeah, and the reason our company has sold $8 billion is because of the amazing job we do with cooperating with all the other companies. That's how you eliminate them, by including them.
It's beautiful. Now, before we wrap it up, I want to touch on pricing, and we don't have to go super in depth on your three-level pricing strategy, but I want you to go over that. Yeah. And then I'm going to talk about post, and then we'll go over this timeline one more time so you can see it in a kind of comprehensive fashion. So assuming the home seller says, Alan, I'd like to start with pricing.
Well, that's not unusual, because most of my clients do. So let's get to price. Andrew, I provide my clients with 3 distinct pricing strategies. Some of my clients want to price their property based on what we call the data approach, based on either a CMA, an appraisal. Okay, and we can talk about those terms later if you'd like. And the reason they select strategy number 1 is because, number 1, they want to make sure their home appraises out. Number 2, they don't want to offend the pricing sensibilities of buyer agents. And some of these people, they're not just selling for economic reasons, they're selling for lifestyle reasons. They want to get on and move next to the grandkids or whatever. So that's strategy number 1. Strategy number 2 is some of our clients, they want to basically price their property on what we refer to as the less is more pricing strategy. That being that some of our home sellers very astutely understand that in certain markets, although I don't think this is one, an ascending value market, that oftentimes by pricing their property a little bit under what the market will support, it can actually create competition and even a bidding war. That's strategy number 2. Strategy number 3 is a very popular strategy. A lot of our clients want to price their property at what I call the retail pricing strategy. That being that they want to strategically price their property a little higher than the data would support in anticipation of buyers wanting to negotiate. Now, based on these 3 choices, just philosophically, which one just seems the most comfortable and suitable for you, Andrew? Now, no matter what they say, they'll usually say this, but Alan, what are we talking about? What's the data? Now, let me explain why that 3 level is so powerful. Because it's strategic. See, a lot of agents have been taught to go into a home and say, well, Andrew, I went into my computer. This column here is homes on the market. That would be your competition. Now, as I like to say, I'm saying this mockingly because otherwise it might sound pretty good. This is homes on the market. That would be your competition. This is days on the market. This is list of sales price. Okay, this is withdrawals. These are expires. Here's some macro information on the economy. Here's some micro. That's a very highly ineffective way because in the information age, data and information have the lowest level of value, as you know, Andrew.
Right.
Knowledge and wisdom have the highest value. You don't want to be a data monger. You want to come out and tenderize the home seller first with your knowledge and wisdom before you get to the data. You're still going to get to the data. Data's data, okay? But you're not going to use words like, let's take a look at the comps, because that's the meaning. And everybody says, well, that's like saying, let's take a look at some comparable children. And anytime anyone uses the word comps, every home seller I ever met would say, but they don't have 5 bedrooms. They don't have a new kitchen. And so what you want to do is that you want to basically be there because you're there as a consultant working on a pricing strategy that's collaborative as opposed to just price. That's what an appraiser does. But unfortunately, a lot of realtors don't go through the strategy of asking themselves, okay, what percentage of realtors overprice their own home? What percentage of homeowners have a price in mind? What percentage of homeowners post-COVID like the data? 0. What does that make you? The bearer of bad news. What happens to the bearer of bad news? Shoot the messenger. So you've got to stay away from starting off with the data. First introduce knowledge, then get to the data.
This is a game-changing concept when you can wrap your head around these pricing strategies.
And it's, again, the power of 3s.
The power of 3s. So you have the data approach, the less is more approach, and the retail approach. And Alan and the GOAT, Gino Blafari himself, have this in our Learn Center where they go on.
And Gino, by the way, was the number one listing agent in a county of 2 million people for many years in competitive Silicon Valley. So I was on several hundred marketing presentations. Gino's a prolific so-called listing agent. So this is in theory.
This is in theory, and to make it one step even more less theory is, we've already closed on over $100 million of listings that I've personally been involved in this year. That's, we're only 8 months in.
2022.
Anytime the pricing strategy comes up, you always go through the 3-level pricing strategy, starting at wisdom and knowledge, not just hitting them with the data. And then this is where I take it away from all the other agents, because sometimes you are competing. You say, you know what I don't do, Mr. Allen? I don't come in here and pretend to know what your home is worth before I've actually seen it, before I can actually understand and contextualize the value of this property through the 7-level step up. So what I don't do is come in here and pretend to know and show you data and try to put a price on your home. I don't do what you may have heard of as a CMA. I don't do the comp thing. I do what's called a master market analysis only after I've seen and understood the property. So I'm going to go back and by tomorrow at 5, I'm going to send you a master market analysis with my 3 prices throughout the pricing strategy. And in that email, I'm going to put down all of our timeline steps, all of the key things that we went over today, and put it all there for you. And we can go from there. People love that because anyone who comes in there and tries to guess the price of your home is gambling with their client's equity. And it's unacceptable. Every home, I've never had someone push back, no, give me a price on my home. Hey, this is a strategic exercise.
Let me give you 2 other things on pricing.
Yes.
From the buffet here. Folks, I don't want to help you select the highest possible price. I want to help you select the highest realistic price. See, the homeowner wants the highest, the agent wants realistic. This is a comforting synthesis on both ends.
Right.
Here's something else that I said for years. But speaking of price, you would never not list with us over price. We wouldn't let that happen. If you want to go to the moon on the price, I'll go there with you, but I know that's not what you want. Because I don't want to help you put the highest possible price, because that will hurt you because of the stigma of longevity. You'll actually hurt yourself, okay? But what you've got to do is you've got to eliminate all choices, because sometimes an agent may recommend a range from 675 to 690, and the homeowner next week lists for 715, and then a month later they reduce it to 680 and it sells for 650. That agent just lost a lot of money because they were boxed in. You should never lose a listing over price unless you make the decision. You should be the person that walks away. You should never, ever allow a person not to select you because they made that decision over price. If it's not where you want it to be, walk away. But there's a lot of realtors that have lost a lot of listings that if they had gone to that price, they would have ended up making a commission, because a lot of listings in certain markets have price reductions. That's just the reality of that. So that's the type of another good question is this, to ask a home seller, but speaking of price, Andrew, what price did you have in mind? Well, Alan, you tell me, you're the expert. Right. No, I am an expert, but it doesn't mean it's going to be our pricing strategy. But I'm just curious. You folks, you really have a good sense of the marketplace. What price did you have? And then they'll go like this. Well, the Joneses home sold for $500,000. Never say, oh no, it listed for that, but it sold for $450,000. Don't bust the bubble of home sellers, okay? That's cruel. Later on, when you're showing them the data, he mentioned the Jones, that's sold for $450,000. Go right about your business. People respect the difference. But if you say, what price did you have in mind? Sometimes a person will go like this. Well, Andrew, if we can't get $600,000, we can't move to North Carolina. Well, that is one approach to pricing, Andrew, the personal approach method. But respectfully, if I can talk to you like I know you, buyers aren't going to come up and say, Alan, how much do they need to move to North Carolina? We can't price it on that. We also can't price it on square footage, because there's a lot of there's square footage and there's square footage. We can't price property based on replacement cost, because there's homes in Metro Baltimore, some of the older neighborhoods, that would cost $3 million to replace that we can't sell for $800,000. So we can't take that. We can't take inflation, okay? And the only method that we're allowed to use is to the best of our ability, try to determine what buyers are willing to today by looking at buyer behavior. And even though your home is different, that's why we don't use the word comp. Let's take a look at properties which buyers will be evaluating at the same time they're evaluating your property, even though your property is completely different. So let's take a look at this property, okay? Now, if you were coming into the market, knowing what you know, what would you offer for your home? See, they've never been asked to put themselves in the buyer prism, okay, like that. And then never say to a home seller, well, it's a little high, Andrew, but we can try it at that price. Well, we can try being married. Never speak that way. You say, if you're going to go to that higher range, you know what? I think we're setting a little bit of a precedent in terms of square footage, in terms of what's sold in the neighborhood. And I'll go there. And by the way, I will fight with every scintilla of my body to get you this price. But if we see the response is adverse, we're going to have to change the shelf positioning, because we'll know one thing. It's not because of my marketing, because this is the best marketing in the world, okay? But I will fight with everything I have to deliver a price around that ballpark. But if it doesn't, we're going to have to make an adjustment.
That's beautiful. And in the spirit of just kind of having a buffet on the pricing, and again, I encourage everyone to go to the Learn Center and listen to Alan and Gino on this. I heard Mark Stark say, and he's such a big fan of the process, and this is a great process, what we've outlined today. He says, if you take a room full of real estate agents, and it might sound like this to a homeowner, hey, we go around the country and we have this beautiful network here with Berkshire Hathaway Home Services. We said, hey, in a room full of top agents, how many people here were surprised at how high a home is sold recently? Every hand goes up. Do you want to know why? Because we don't know the price.
Exactly.
We can't control the price. Now, we do need a strategic launching price, which is why we have 3 pricing strategies. But I can't control the exact price, but I can control the process. And we have a process timeline that maximizes our seller's equity. And the other beautiful thing about the 3 pricing strategies is it gives you some outs. If they select the retail pricing strategy, say, yeah, I am trying to get you as much as I possibly can, and it's that. And what Alan just went over is how to preemptively get a price reduction. Or if it's the less is more, hey, you priced that too low. Yeah, that was part of our strategy.
Exactly.
Remember?
They're involved.
Yeah, we had 6 offers.
We're not paid to be appraisers. The forever agents are paid to be pricing strategists or the consultant. Now, here's something else. When somebody uses the word comms, this is what the homeowner thinks. How could we possibly list with this agent when this agent doesn't even understand the fulsomeness and the distinctiveness of our property? So therefore, whatever their pricing recommendations is inherently flawed because they've just manifested they haven't captured the distinctiveness of our home. The other thing is this. Anytime you're asking a person for a price reduction, never be the bearer of bad news directly. Say this, Andrew, only if it's true. Andrew, I've got tremendous feedback about your landscaping, your backyard, your privacy, the fact that your property is all brick, you're deep into the the country club community through the meandering tree-lined street. So I've gotten tremendous feedback on your home. But unfortunately, buyers aren't willing to go over $1 million, even for homes as captivating as yours. That's one thing. The second thing is this. Never be the person who points out the flaws. One of the challenges that we had is that I had a few agents, and I would name their companies. I had a few agents with so-and-so company, because I make sure they never want to list with them. I had a few agents from so-and-so company. They were saying that their problem is that their buyers said that they didn't like your kitchen. The kitchen was outdated. I'm never going to be the bearer of bad news. I'm going to deliver that message. The other thing, in terms of price, a lot of agents have actually said this when they present their first offer. Well, Andrew, oftentimes the first offer is the best offer. That's outrageous. If you're ever going to say that, you have to first, again, tenderize the home seller. When you're making your marketing proposal, as part of explaining your negotiating philosophy, to say, and by the way, Andrew, I have an ethical responsibility to present all offers. Now, sometimes the first offer is going to be the worst offer, and sometimes it may be the best offer. And because of my knowledge, I'll be able to counsel you on what I think. Therefore, when later you're saying oftentimes the first offer, is because otherwise they may think that you are nudging them because you're afraid that the listing may be expiring, or that an extra $50,000 is just a few $100 to you, but it's a game changer for them. And they may think that the agent is more focused on just getting the home sold than the amount. And you've got to be careful to conceal that self-serving attitude.
There's so much we can go into more on price, but in the spirit of just comprehensively going over the customized home marketing proposal, I want to get to the last P, which is the post work. And I'll take this one because this is something, as a modern day practitioner, we always have to get into. And I have a checklist. After I've went through the 7-level step up, well, here's what everybody does. Here's the 7 things we do differently. Here's how it feels and looks on a timeline. I'm going to get back to you with a master market analysis. I send them the email follow-up with the link, with the entire pricing strategy. I review all the market data. I go over the market dynamics, and I let them know. And you educate them a little bit, because the number one way to gain trust is to educate somebody. Not in a pedantic manner, but just to show them this is what's going on in the market. Here's the month's supply of inventory. Here's the absorption rate. Here's the velocity. You are seen as an expert because you know what? Real estate agents don't talk like that, but forever agents do. You confirm all the dates. Hey, can we please confirm September 7th is the best day that me and my photographer and our photo video crew can come over? And then you explain how you're going to follow up with them. People want to know what's going to happen before it happens, which is why the timeline's important. And this last piece of this post follow-up is important. You say, well, you can also ask, how would you like the communication to go? Because it's collaborative. You say, typically home sellers want an update every Monday after the weekend. So if it's okay with you, I'd like to check in. I'm going to send you a video email. Now, I like doing video email, and some of the other forever agents might like it as well. You want to know why? Because you can get all your points out on video in a compelling fashion, and they don't get to talk back. Because they don't get to interrupt you. And then once they've digested your information, you can have a conversation as well. Now, there's a lot of ways to service a listing. Alan just went over some of the points on how to get price reductions should that come up. And by the way, that will be coming back as inventory creeps up and days on market creep up. And we kind of normalize what's been going on here. And right now it's the mid 2022. But that is the preparation. That is how you present and propose. There's so much more on pricing. In negotiation strategy, explaining the seller's your negotiation strategy, we didn't get into it, but I want to save that for another time because that kind of goes into fee validation and rebuttals. And then the post. But before we wrap this up, Alan, anything else you want to add on the Forever Agent customized marketing proposal?
Yes, you have mentioned on a few occasions that you don't do a CMA, you do an MMA. That is also one of the Forever Agent 34 proclamations. Because a lot of agents want to focus on how they're different, but it seems like everybody's doing the same thing.
Right.
There's no law, and there's nothing in the Constitution that people have to use the letter CMA. But for some reason, everybody just does it.
Same thing with listings.
What's the difference between a CMA and an MMA? A master market analysis. A CMA will give a home seller an estimate of value. An MMA, a master market analysis, both give somebody an estimate of value, fair market value, but also things they can do to enhance their value. So when Christy Budnick talks about being invaluable, what makes an agent invaluable? Doing a CMA like everybody else, here's a fair market estimate, or an MMA also showing people how they can enhance your value. We should look to achieve differentiation at every step along the way.
Well, all this stuff is interconnected.
It
you
is.
just brought up the fact that we don't use lazy listing language, the fact that we don't do listing presentations, the fact that we don't use the word comps, the fact that we have a master market analysis, and it's a lot more than what Alan just said, but he's giving you a cursory overview. It includes 3 pricing strategies. It includes how to enhance your home. It includes some of the content-rich stuff we use in open houses inside the master market analysis. And we're going to do a podcast on master market analysis, and you guys can call it what you want. That's what Alan and I have called what we do, as opposed to a CMA. But you guys got to own this stuff. And I just have to say, when I gave this talk in Omaha, I can't tell you how many people came up to me and said, "Can I please have a copy of this?" And this was a prototype we made, and we're still working on it. So if you heard things you like, and I'm sure you did, at least a couple little things you might be able to incorporate into your next marketing proposal, then we all have Alan to thank for this, because you created the home marketing system decades ago. There's a video that we're going to link to this podcast of you going over why you have to have a home marketing system. And it's so unbelievably powerful. And as a student, if you're like me and a student of this game, I love hearing how you develop these marketing systems, not just for our brand and this latest and greatest version that I've been very fortunate to collaborate on, but what you did for 6 other national brands. So I just want to say thank you so much.
One little addendum that I think is important has to do with the content again. 71%, 72% of people have a pet. As you've heard me say, I actually think home sellers love their pets more than realtors, right?
Sure.
And I wonder how many of our forever agents make it a point to every single marketing presentation they go on to tell the homeowner, and by the way, at the open houses, I bring moving with pets and moving with children. This is common sense. Now, if a home seller has pets, they automatically like you. They think you're sensitive and respectful. I have pets. I love my pets. And that's a great way to really connect with people. So it's not just to have a content-rich open house. It's to show the home seller how you're going to add to the value of their open house and tie into human issues like the love of pets. And it's so simple, but that point would never be made on a coaching program or a training program, because that's all at the micro level. They're not at the macro level. They can't deal with our brand. They can't deal with our differentiation. That's why I took the train down from New York to Baltimore late last night after doing a pledge rally for several hundred agents.
1,000.
Because this is so important for the network. And thank you, Andrew, for the immense credibility, charisma, and competency that you're bringing to the Forever Agent movement. It's indispensable.
Well, that's it for the episode number 3 changing your listing presentation to a customized forever marketing proposal and system. And stay tuned. There's plenty more where that came from. There's 34 of these proclamations. This is the first time we actually spent the entire podcast on one, and it won't be the last. Thanks for tuning in.